Speaking to the Associated Press from his Oval Office, U.S. President Joe Biden said the American people are, quote, really, really down after 2 years of pandemic, a volatile economy, and now surging gas prices. But he tried to offer a glimmer of hope, saying the U.S. is in a stronger position than any nation in the world to overcome inflation. His comments come after the central bank raised interest rates by another 75 basis points this week. The Feds are expected to continue to hike rates in the coming months.
And Britain's feeling sky high after it was announced the UK could host the Eurovision Song Contest in 2023. Sam Ryder came second in this year's edition with his song Spaceman, the UK's best result since 1998, losing out only to Ukraine. Usually the winner hosts next year's competition, but with the conflict raging on in the war-torn state, the European Broadcasting Union has instead begun discussions with the British Broadcasting Corporation. Downing Street's welcomed the possibility of holding the event in Britain. However, Ukraine's culture minister is demanding they still get to host. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks. Today we're going to take a closer look at the news that the British journalist Dom Phillips and the Amazon expert Bruno Pereira are confirmed to have been murdered several days ago in Brazil. Their loss is a stunning blow for their families and, of course, for millions of people concerned about the future of the Amazon basin. They'd been warned their activities were upsetting loggers, miners and illegal fishermen who operate with relative impunity in the region.
Bolsonaro has consistently disrespected the Amazon.
Erica Berenga is a tropical forest ecologist who says Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro, a climate change skeptic, has sought to create an environment in the Amazon that could have contributed to the murders.
He has slashed the budget of the Environmental Agency, of the Indigenous People Agency, and of the Parks and Reserves Agency in Brazil. Those are the agencies that would be fighting deforestation and fighting any illegal extractive activity. And he consistently has harmed the images of those agencies by his speeches, always calling them the villain, rather than those that are protecting the forests of the country.
The executive director of Greenpeace praised Phillips and Pereira as brave, passionate and determined.
A quick reminder of our top stories. UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson's made a second surprise visit to Kiev for a meeting with President Volodymyr Zelensky, having in April become the first leader of a G7 country to travel to the Ukrainian capital since Russia's invasion. It follows a trip earlier this week by French President Emmanuel Macron, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz and Italian Prime Minister Mario Draghi, a move that's paved the way for Ukraine to potentially join the European Union. And in the US, President Joe Biden says a recession is not inevitable, even in the wake of stark warnings from economists. That's the latest feature story news. I'm Benji Haya in Washington.
For those hoping to get ahead of the work week, look no further than Overtime Plus, a new app that lets you work for your company even while you sleep. The app keeps you trapped in a constant half-awake, half-dream state where your thoughts are never far from the drudgeries of the work week. By simply laying your phone on your mattress, the app's accelerometers are able to measure your movements throughout the night, so it knows when you're close to falling into a deep sleep and losing focus of the crushing work demands ahead of you. When restful sleep is detected, the app dips into your personalized work tasks to generate a subliminal signal, like the date of an important deadline or keywords from the most damning portion of your last job review to jostle you back into a state of productive, semi-awake agitation.
I was close to falling asleep last night, then my app started whispering my boss's name over and over again until I was awake and answering work emails at 3 in the morning.
Last night it made me dream that I was locked in the office until I could find the most optimal way to catalog the company's new server. I still haven't figured it out.
The app doesn't just keep you mentally shackled to your day job, but also serves as an alarm clock by repeatedly shouting you're late for work until you're jolted out of bed in a panic each morning.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live, the number for you to call in, 603-283-6160. You should write it down because there's no guarantees I'm ever going to say it again. 603-283-6160. But there I did it again. It's Mark.
Hey, it's Ian.
And it's your opportunity to call in to Free Talk Live. That's what we do 7 nights a week. 7 nights a week. For a commercial radio program That's pretty darn good. Let's go to the phones. We already have calls coming in here on Free Talk Live. By the way, I got a story. Apparently, Joe Biden is scolding the oil industry. It's one laugh after another with this guy. Let's go to Renita.
Next line. The next button there.
Okay, this button.
There you go.
Renita, can you hear me now?
Yeah. Hello.
What's on your mind?
I was calling in to say hi. It's my first time, not long time.
Renita, turns out I'm on the show for the moment. I told you off the air that I wasn't going to be on tonight. Renita is the producer, director, creator of the new documentary that is being filmed about New Hampshire and other places called Free State. And we talked earlier this week after I saw the trailer that came out. I guess more sizzle reel, I guess it's called, like a 7-minute long trailer that you released over the last week. And Mark, did you happen to see it? I know you're coming into this cold.
No,
right?
I have not seen it.
Renita, can you kind of pitch the film to Mark and other people that might be listening?
Yeah, it's mainly looking at free staters in New Hampshire, but aiming to kind of compare it against other free, quote unquote, free states in the country, Florida, Texas, South Dakota, and just kind of looking at the lives of free staters and kind of seeing what's going on right now, especially with pushback from within the state while they're growing in numbers, and just to see how hopefully they will eventually succeed in their endeavor.
Well, I wonder what success looks like in this circumstance. I mean, I think that every free stater probably has a different opinion as to what it is. And it's poorly defined when it comes to, the Free State Project and that sort of thing. So I'm not entirely sure. How did Texas do on the Freedom in the 50 States this go around? Because I remember back when they were
great.
Yeah, in the middle of the pack.
Yeah, I think they're still mid-pack, but I don't have it in front of me.
Are you Texan, Renita?
I was actually born in Texas, but I grew up in Massachusetts.
I see. Well, I know the Texans just love their state, so
yes.
They always want to toss it in. Toss it in. Whatever list is doing well, Texas. Yeah. So, what do you think about the movie? How'd it go?
It's still being produced. Number one.
Well, I bet she knows better than anybody then.
Yeah, I'm about to head to Pork Fest this week. I did one shoot in February. It was just a few days, and now this one will be about a week-long shoot. So,
what was your first shoot about?
So the first shoot, we came out in February, and I just interviewed a few people. One thing I'm trying to do is interview people that aren't in the Free State Project, because I'd like to get just like a broad look at New Hampshire and not just be, so entwined in that. So we interviewed a few people and went to a few Free State events, went to a crypto meetup, and happened to be there for Porcupine Day. So that was great because there was a ton of people there.
Yeah, so for those that don't know, Porcupine Day is February the 3rd. It's the day after Groundhog Day. And it was the day that was it was the day that was announced that we hit 20,000
in 2016.
In 2016. So how many is that? How many years is that? Six?
6, I think, yeah.
6 years now. So everybody had within 5 years to move.
Right, this is 20,000 people who had pledged to migrate, pick up their lives and move to New Hampshire as part of the Free State Project. I think that, I don't know what the current numbers are, but I'm guessing it isn't much higher than 5,000 who've actually made the move.
Well, some of those numbers are friends of the Free State Project.
There
so
are
they were here
a few thousand, I think, more who are here already. We've seen record numbers moving in the last year. It was I believe it was over 1,000 movers last year just for the Free State Project. Are you familiar with those numbers at all, Renita?
I'm not, but I did get the sentiment from people that I interviewed, like Carla, that there's been more an influx of people, obviously.
I hear that.
Think over the past year, yeah.
I hear a lot more people are moving. I don't notice that in Keene too much, but
very few people move to Keene. It's kind of way out there.
Yeah, one might wonder.
In more ways than one.
But I mean, there's so many things that different people might want in different regions of the state. So
what? I know I already asked you this off the air, but for our listeners, what was it that inspired this production, this movie?
So I actually live in California. I was kind of a free stater for a couple of years. I owned property there, and that was kind of an effort to get a foot in there and maybe eventually come over. I don't have that property anymore, but while I was here, through 2020 and then in 2021 through the Mises Caucus, I was able to edit and produce a documentary about the lockdowns, which was in the film festival, Anthem, at Freedom Fest last year. And it was very well received, but it's a very sad story. We kind of try to give an uplifting message at the end, but it's really heavy. And so it just kind of got me thinking.
I was looking at the description. What was it called again? The documentary?
The Unseen.
The Unseen.
It was actually, it was directed by Nick Nikides. He was in the Mises Caucus at the time. And
so you produced that movie?
I produced, wrote, and edited.
Editing. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And of course, it's going to be depressing. As I understand it, you followed, was it 4 California business owners who were, cracked down upon, basically?
Yeah. Was it 3 restaurant owners and 1 gym owner? It's a training gym where they train kids how to do deep dives, but there's no pools there. Anyway, so just so you know, they work with
dangerous.
Kids, so, no, they have these big foam pits.
I gotcha.
Looks like fun. Anyways, that part is interesting because they work with kids, and she let us know that some of those kids were up for scholarships and didn't get them, and then that's it for them. So we had originally intended to include a variety of businesses, not just restaurants, but we ended up having to kind of finish the doc quickly to get it in for Anthem. So that's what we went with. But it was just really rough to hear their stories, and especially one woman who happened to have a fire at her house amid being shut down from her business that her and her husband had owned since the 90s, and she said that they never ever closed, barely just on Christmas. So to be shut down like that was devastating for them.
So is that kind of what you're going to do with the new movie, the Free State? Is it Free State of Mind? Is that right?
Or Free State.
Free State.
Free State.
Is that just follow a couple of movers around? I mean, this has been there've been documentaries like this in the past. I'm just curious. Is that the idea?
Well, before you answer that, you were telling me that the negative aspects of this other documentary, The Unseen, you were thinking, I want to do something more positive.
I want to do something that makes me feel better.
Yeah.
Yes. Because I personally am a very optimistic person. I do like to point out when things are wrong, but it just Free State came to mind right away. And so I have followed around, there's a new mover. I have followed around some people that have been Free Staters for a little while, a long time. One person is not a Free Stater at all. He's just lived in New Hampshire his whole life. He lives on his family farm. So I want a variety of people, but while I was there in February, I was still trying to figure out the angle. And I work in reality TV, so I'm just always kind of looking for the drama. And I realized that I really do want to focus on the negative pushback from politicians within New Hampshire.
Well, you could be sure to cover my friend Ian here, who's really dealt with some negative political pressure as a result of his activism over the years.
And the FBI and locals certainly. And this is something I was telling a lot of the Free Staters more than a decade ago. It's like, if you start rocking the boat, it doesn't matter how nice you are, the people who are in the positions of power are going to hate you. And that's starting to happen statewide at this point.
Yes. So I think the goal would be to get enough people there to be able to withstand that, right? If possible.
I think there's a long way from the Liberty veto to the Liberty majority.
It is a long way, no doubt.
There has been progress, and I think that one of the best things that they've been able to do is sort of work with who's ever in power at the time in order to squeak out some freedom here and squeak out some freedom there. Will you hold the line, Renita?
Yeah.
Okay, please, if you would. I'm trying to figure out how these buttons work. Can you just put this top one at the top?
Yep, that's right. Mark's first time back in the driver's seat here in Keene. More coming up on Free Talk Live.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. chat.lrn.fm.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com. There are basically two types of advertising: direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
The Free State Project has reached its goal of 20,000 liberty lovers who've pledged to move to New Hampshire and get active to achieve liberty in our lifetime. Perhaps you're trying to figure out what part of New Hampshire should be your destination. If so, consider Keene. You'll find more than 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com. Keene is famous for its historic, publicity-generating activism, as well as being the liberty media capital of the world. It's home to freekeene.com, New Hampshire's destination for liberty activism, news, and opinion. For years, we've been compiling over 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com, where you'll learn about some of what's happening here and what makes Keene a great place to live. If you love liberty, you'll probably enjoy anywhere you end up in the Shire. But do your due diligence first. Please visit move.freekeene.com for the full list of over 150 reasons to move to Keene. That's move.freekeene.com. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com. Got Telegram? You can follow our channel there and discuss show prep with other listeners at telegram.freetalklive.com.
Free Talk Live. Call in at 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. It's Mark with you.
Nobody.
And it's Ian.
And you can call in, talk about whatever you want, but we got a very special guest on. It's Renita, who is the producer.
Can we talk about sadistic equine necrophilia, or would that be beating a dead horse?
And that's exactly what that would be, yeah. Well, we'll give it a shot. Let's bring Renita back here on the line. We'll see if I remember how to do so.
Yep,
hello.
There she is.
And you're going to be here very soon for the Porcupine Freedom Festival.
And you're the producer
yes,
and director of, sorry, I just got to reintroduce you for people just tuning in. You're directing and producing the in-production Free State documentary, which the trailer's out. The website is at freestatedoc.com. Is that right?
Yes.
So folks can go over there and check out more about the movie. Sorry, go ahead with what were you going to say?
Oh, it's my first Pork Fest.
Oh, wow.
Oh, nice. A virgin.
That'd be excellent.
It's going to be a big thing. I mean, I wish I could have gone last year. I was restricted from attending because of my insane bail conditions in the Crypto 6 case, but I will be able to go up for one day this year, and I'm really excited to see it because, I mean, I've seen...
The sweet air of freedom.
I have seen, I don't know how many of these things, probably close to 10 or 12 or something like that. A lot of them. I've been to quite a few pork fests, and I've never seen it in sold-out capacity, and it's sold out for the very first time last year, and it is sold out again this time, and this time they increased the total number of tickets by 500, so it was sold out at 2,500 tickets last year, and this year it's 3,000 tickets, and it's sold out again, so it's going to be a big deal. The only problem is going to be the bathrooms.
3,000 mad bastards in a campground. That's going to be a good time.
Yeah, it is.
Indeed. So
I'm going to have to sell probably the last of my gold to get there, but I'm going to do it.
So
they're actually showing my my other documentary Thursday night at 8.
Awesome.
And that one is?
Yeah.
The Unseen.
The Unseen.
Yes.
Okay. So, your new documentary is about the Free State Project. You decided to do it in order to, get a little levity in your life, but it turns out you're not very good at that, and so you're trying to find the conflict. And what are you looking for when you go to the Porcupine Freedom Festival to go around, do your interviews and these kind of things?
Yeah. Well, a few people that are already in the sizzle will be there, so I'd like to continue following them around, and a few of them have events going on too. But I've seen the schedule. There's tons of interesting things to see, so I'm just kind of gonna wing it a bit, but
well, that's really what PorcFest is about. A lot of people believe that it's the schedule, and it isn't the schedule. You'll probably see a third of what you thought you would, and
usually you try to go somewhere and then you get waylaid by talking to people on the way to the thing, and you never get to the thing you wanted to go to, but you had a good time on the way.
Right. I mean,
sometimes you play your guitar for 6 hours, and sometimes you just stick your head in a bucket of Jell-O. It's a Jerry Garcia quote.
Indeed, that's exactly
nice.
what he's right.
I'm a deadhead.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what's the very best about PorcFest is the Porcupine Freedom Festival at porcfest.com, is that, you don't have to really do anything. It's just a great day talking to people, and everybody has a great time.
Yeah, it really is about the people. And of course, that's what this whole movement, this whole migration is about. It's about getting a community of freedom-loving people together. And Renita, did you tell me off the air that you had gone to Freedom Fest before?
I did. I got to go last year because our documentary was in the film fest, so I actually got a free ticket.
Yeah, I've been to one. Mark, you've been to a bunch of them, right?
Half a dozen, probably.
Yeah, I mean, it's a totally different atmosphere.
Me and Val were like this.
Totally different atmosphere at Freedom Fest. Freedom Fest is this, typical stuffy kind of convention with a bunch of conservatives hanging around.
Yes.
And the Porcupine Freedom Festival, I don't know if there's any conservatives at this event, but there's certainly a bunch of libertarians from all the way.
Some of them are conservative.
Yeah, all the way from like the religious conservative leaning to the total anarchist, walk around naked types. I mean, it's a pretty interesting.
Been some of that.
There might even be religious anarchists walking around naked. You never know.
It is an odd crowd. There's no doubt about that.
Nothing like it. In the time that you've spent here so far, what are your thoughts? You already knew about the Free State Project. Do you think this is a good thing? You just give us your reflections.
Yeah, I actually had the inclination. I don't know if I had heard about the project yet, but just when I started seeing the beginnings of cancel culture, back in 2015, I started to feel like people really need to gather and live near each other if things get worse in that regard. So I definitely believe in that. I wouldn't want to live on a commune, but I would love to have a town full of all my people,
Do you see,
what I've always wanted to do is buy the campground where they have Pork Fest and start doing Pork Fest all year round. So some people would live there, not a commune because communism sucks, but more like a trailer park than a commune but just some people coming and going, some people staying all the time.
Mark almost did that a few years ago, and didn't you tell me, I don't know if it's a secret, so I won't say who it is, but didn't you tell me you ran into somebody at the Exit and Build conference who is actually in talks to buy Rogers Campground?
I have run into a half a dozen people throughout the years that are in the talks to buy the campground. No
one's gone past the talking stage, huh?
Right. I mean, there's,
I'm in talks to buy it, but none of the people I've talked to have had any money for me.
Indeed. I'm curious about Florida, Texas, and South Dakota, which is also going to be in the film. What are you doing there? What's the interview?
We'll see if I'm able to actually go there. I mean, I do have family in Texas, so that might be something I could easily do. I was actually hoping that maybe at PorkFest there might be some people from those states there that could kind of speak to the differences.
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, people come from all over the place.
Ian and I both moved up from Florida in 2006 to New Hampshire. I have since left the Free State Project a couple of years ago, but I think that one of the things I can certainly say about the difference between Florida and New Hampshire, although they are both sort of equally free, Florida, 3 plus 2 and 4 plus 1 are equal but not the same. And that Florida and New Hampshire are free in different ways, and it depends on what you're looking for. But one thing's for certain, you're never going to affect the government in Tallahassee as a Florida resident. I mean, you're just not going to be able to do it.
And you also won't have a community. You don't get together with libertarians there in the same way that we do here. There's no concentration.
Yeah. In Florida, I went to a libertarian event like every other month, and it was a Libertarian Party business meeting. Some interesting people, but just because that was the only thing there was to do. In New Hampshire, most days,
5 days a
there
week,
are 3 libertarian events to choose from. If you feel like if you're willing to drive an hour to get to one, and you never go. I don't think there's ever 48 hours between events.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No
there
doubt
is
about
truly
it.
always something to do. If you're looking for a libertarian social club, New Hampshire's got everything else beat, hands down.
Renita, thanks for calling in.
Yes.
Yeah, we're short on time on this segment.
Yes,
I appreciate you being here, and I'm sure we'll get updates from you as the movie continues to be produced. Look forward to seeing you in another week or so at the Porcupine Freedom Festival, and check out her documentary. It's really cool so far over at freestatedoc.com. There's a 7-minute preview reel basically, and it's well done.
Free Talk Live.
More coming up. Free Talk Live's video archives have been on LBRY for years. LBRY is an uncensorable, decentralized, blockchain-based media sharing protocol, and we're big fans of it here on Free Talk Live. In 2020, LBRY launched Odysee, a video sharing website to compete with YouTube, and it's really taking off, now with over 1 million channels, many of whom are disaffected YouTube creators. During YouTube's crackdown for not towing the government line on COVID, the Free Talk Live YouTube channel started receiving strikes and could be completely taken down at any moment. Thankfully, Odysee started offering live streaming, so we're now streaming live every night and posting our video archives permanently to Odysee. You can watch live or anytime on our Odysee channel by visiting video.freetalklive.com. If you want to go all in, download the desktop app at lbry.com, and then every video archive you watch, you'll help seed and keep it online forever. At minimum, we ask you visit video.freetalklive.com and follow us on Odysee today. video.freetalklive.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, D.C., I'm Benji Haya. UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson's made a second surprise visit to Kiev for a meeting with President Volodymyr Zelensky, having in April become the first leader of a G7 country to travel to the Ukrainian capital since Russia's invasion. It follows a trip earlier this week by French President Emmanuel Macron, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, and Italian Prime Minister Mario Draghi, a move that has paved the way for Ukraine to potentially join the European Union. On Friday, the European Commission officially recommended that Ukraine be granted candidate status to the 27-member bloc. Ira Spitzer has more from Brussels.
Wearing the colors of the Ukrainian flag, Ursula von der Leyen, the president of the EU's executive branch, announced the recommendation that Ukraine be allowed to start the process of becoming part of the EU.
Ukraine has clearly demonstrated the country's aspiration and the country's determination to live up to European values and standards.
The commission also recommended candidate status for Moldova, who, like Ukraine, applied to join the EU shortly after Russia invaded Ukraine in February. It didn't recommend candidate status, however, for now, to Georgia. The candidacies still require the approval of all 27 EU nations, who convene here next week for a leaders' summit.
Meanwhile, Russian President Vladimir Putin's criticized what he calls mad and thoughtless sanctions against his nation imposed following the invasion of Ukraine. He used his address at an economic conference in St. Petersburg to implore Russian businesses to keep working in the country. In the US, President Joe Biden says a recession is not inevitable, even in the wake of stark warnings from economists, as Gabrielle Fahmy reports from New York.
Speaking to the Associated Press from his Oval Office, U.S. President Joe Biden said the American people are, quote, really, really down after 2 years of pandemic, a volatile economy, and now surging gas prices. But he tried to offer a glimmer of hope, saying the U.S. is in a stronger position than any nation in the world to overcome inflation. His comments come after the central bank raised interest rates by another 75 basis points this week. The Feds are expected to continue to hike rates in the coming months.
And Britain's feeling sky high after it was announced the UK could host the Eurovision Song Contest in 2023. Sam Ryder came second in this year's edition with his song Spaceman, the UK's best result since 1998, losing out only to Ukraine. Usually the winner hosts next year's competition, but with the conflict raging on in the war-torn state, the European Broadcasting Union has instead begun discussions with the British Broadcasting Corporation. Downing Street's welcomed the possibility of holding the event in Britain. However, Ukraine's culture minister is demanding they still get to host. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSA.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com.
Free Talk Live. Call in, talk about whatever is on your mind. It's Mark with you.
Nobody.
And now Chris. That's right. So nobody, you're going by nobody these days, or is
nobody knows what I'm going to do.
No, that's kind of what I thought. Is that it's still about the lulls. You know?
Yeah. I mean, some days I'm nobody. Some days I'm Rich Paul. I introduce myself both ways depending on to whom I'm introducing myself. The way I look at it is nobody's kind of the character and Rich Paul's kind of the actor.
I kind of see it that way myself.
But
what's your mom say?
She said, that's stupid.
Kind of the point, right?
I imagine she's put up with it quite a bit throughout your life.
I mean, she's had to deal with a lot of
I thought I'd give my mom trouble.
Grief. I mean, my family's meek and mild and law-abiding, and they adopted me. And
yeah, same here. I adopted too.
I was apparently. I'm guessing that I was descended from hunter-gatherers, and they're descended from farmers. But we just have different attitudes about things. We love each other. We love each other.
That's how families are.
But we're very different.
And we've got some good news that we're working on. Are we allowed to talk about the application?
Cell 411?
That's right.
Absolutely. Okay. I was hoping to, actually.
Let's just briefly touch on that. I do have a call, though. I've got to take.
Okay, we'll take your call. And
then we'll talk about we're going to talk about Cell 411, the app that I think is so exciting, and Ian and Rich here have been dedicated to get going. Let's go to Gigi calling from Charleston. Gigi, you're on Free Talk Live. Gigi, you still there? I talk too much? That loser. All right, we'll put her back on the hold just in case.
Good God, running your mouth when there's a pretty girl on the phone.
Well,
I don't know if she's pretty. She sounds pretty.
Indeed. Let me go to, so my title story here, the one that I've started off with, is that Joe Biden apparently is scolding the oil industry over fuel costs. I want to say that one more time. Joe Biden is chastening the oil industry over fuel costs.
Joe Biden is a freaking moron. I mean, the guy came into office. He actually I guess he doesn't remember what his campaign promises were, but some of us do. We're not all senile like he is. And, he promised when he came into office that he would regulate the energy industry out of business. And that's exactly what he did. The amazing thing is he's actually the one politician who really keeps his promises. The only problem is his promises are moronic and destructive.
U.S. President Joe Biden on Wednesday chastened the oil industry over soaring fuel prices at the heart of a 40-year high inflation, warning of unspecified emergency measures. The letter sent to seven...
the FDR trick. Keep the business people guessing so they don't dare invest.
The letter sent to 7 major oil corporations was Biden's most direct salvo yet in a campaign to blame the industry for stoking fuel prices.
Why not? He's blamed everybody else for every mistake he's made.
I mean, isn't most of the problem that they don't have the the permits basically to actually drill for the oil? Right. Even though they have lots of permits.
They don't have permits.
Not every place that you drill will come up with oil.
And, well, think of it this way. What's the worst thing that Biden could think of to do to Russia when they invaded the Ukraine? I know what we'll do. I'll cut off their pipeline, just like I cut off America's pipeline, because I hated them, too.
Yeah, I would say that I think it's fair to say that the Democrats were largely against shipping oil, making it as difficult as possible.
They want to have a comfortable lifestyle without doing the things that are necessary to make life comfortable, and they think it can be done by magic if you just have enough guns.
Well, I suppose you could go out and buy some solar panels, put them up, and charge the grid. But none of them want to do that. They just want to tell you you can't.
I mean, you can do that, and it'll sometimes work when it's sunny. It'll cost you more than oil will, but. Every once in a while it works. There is a former gubernatorial candidate in New Hampshire who made it work.
It's not even like the solar panels don't work. It's or that they're more expensive. It's that they don't work everywhere, right? So you can't just stop the flow of oil and expect it to magically, solve. Solar is going to magically solve your problems. There are some places that solar is going to work really well, like the desert, in Arizona probably, or maybe Florida. But here in New Hampshire, they're not going to work anywhere near as efficiently as they do down there.
Even in the desert, you're going to have a lot of surface area on the roof of your car, because the problem with...
Yeah, and that's another great example of, it's not going to work everywhere, right?
A lot of the issue is not about making energy. It's about making energy portable, because if you can't take your gasoline with you, it's not going to power your car.
Yeah, batteries are supposed to be the great hope, but I think that
another shortage that they're having.
We shouldn't stop at fossil fuels here. It's worth pointing out that Democrats, if that's what if we're going to start laying blame at political parties, I think it's fair to say Democrats are against hydro on major rivers, stopping the fishies from doing this thing or that thing, right? And they're against nuclear power. Both of these are considered green, but they're not green in the way they want. They just want magic electricity that they read about in science fiction books.
Because they're religious nuts. Their religion is global warming. Any prosperity is a sin. And if you sin, you're doomed to burn in the eternal fires of global warming.
Now, I'm not going to claim to have every answer when it comes to, how we're going to move forward in a world with, the way fuel is and that sort of thing. But I think that people should take responsibility for their actions, right? If what you're trying to do is undermine America's fossil fuel industry, say so.
Yeah. And when you're doing it successfully, don't try to blame somebody else. You're doing what you promised to do. You're impoverishing us by destroying the energy industry. Own it. Live with it. The Greens will love you for it. They want us dead.
Well, Americans generally, if we want to get, if you want to move to more pressure on sustainable energy, that's kind of what has to happen. Is people have to be told, hey, look, you got to pay for power, and we're going to crank the prices up so that you are careful with it, or whatever.
Just make people's lives a living hell, and the survivors will eventually use green energy.
That's right. Rocks and wood. The letter sent to 7 major oil companies was Biden's most direct salvo yet. Average fuel prices are now $5 a gallon for drivers in the United States, up from $3 a year ago, and less than that before that. And the spike is reverberating through the entire economy, helping to sink Biden's approval ratings below 40%.
You know what's funny about this is it's still not as bad as in Germany in the 90s, I believe. I could be mistaken about this, but as I recall, I think it was it translates into like $8 a gallon in Germany in the 90s. So we're still not at the price that Europeans pay for gas.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they allow unlimited government power. They were the home of the Nazis, and that means poverty for everybody.
It's all over Europe as far as the cost of fuel, just to be clear. They drive these little tiny cars, which that's a good thing. America is, to my mind, a little too car dependent. Personally, my take on it. Yeah. However, to me that's a preference. That's how they should. You should decide, as opposed to. Taxing people into it.
I think America is to other people's business dependent.
Neither America nor Europe have figured it out yet. They need to just get rid of the regulations, and the problem would solve itself. We would have dense urban areas, but we would also have a less dense, probably urban areas as well. But a lot of people wouldn't be living as rural as they are when they don't need to be, because it's less expensive to live in more urban areas to a degree. When you get too dense, you do have run into cost problems, but
it's coming or going. You're going to pay them one way or the other. The number 603-283-6160. We'll get to your calls coming up next here on Free Talk Live. 603-283-6160.
This is Michael Dean from the Freedom Fiends. I've run websites since 1996 and have used over a dozen web hosts in that time. AgristHosting.com is the only one that hasn't broken my heart. Agrist Hosting's uptime and service is stellar, and their DDoS mitigation is the best I've seen. That's important because if you tell the truth in this world, you'll ruffle feathers. And some people will try dirty tricks to silence your voice. No matter what the haters hit us with, Agrist Hosting keeps our websites online. If you have a mission-critical commercial presence or a world-changing activism site, you cannot tolerate any skullduggery. So go with agristhosting.com. Have a WordPress or blog site, but you're not satisfied with performance or uptime? Or just want raw hosting? Want to pay with Bitcoin? Agrist Hosting specializes in high-performance hosting with personalized service. Go to agristhosting.com and click on the button that says Get Hosted. That's agristhosting.com.
So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com. There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
We have some good news. The indictments against Ross Ulbricht in the District of Maryland were dismissed with prejudice, meaning they can never be refiled. This is especially good because those indictments contain the only charge ever made that Ross engaged in murder for hire. This was a serious allegation that Ross Ulbricht denies. It was never prosecuted or ruled on by a jury, but was trumpeted by the federal government and the media as if it were proven fact. The Maryland court held these indictments for almost 5 years, poisoning Ross's case and leaving him under a cloud of unproven allegations. allegations. As explained in Ross's appeal to the Supreme Court, the fact that the judge used these allegations to give Ross a draconian sentence of double life without parole violated his Sixth Amendment right to a jury trial. Judges are required to issue sentences based on convictions decided by a jury, not unproven allegations never even charged at trial. Although this is a positive development, the dropped indictment will not set Ross free. Now, a presidential pardon is Ross's only hope of freedom. Sign the petition at freeross.org. freeross.org.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191. The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com.
Free Talk Live, call in at 603-283-6160, 603-283-6160. Mark with you.
Nobody.
And Chris.
And you can do as so many callers have done this evening, and call in and talk about what you want. We're getting ready for PorkFest, Forkfest. You can go to porkfest.com to find out more about the Porcupine Freedom Festival. Pork is spelled with a C, not a K. And Forkfest, which is spelled with a K, not a C, is at forkfest.party. So basically, Forkfest is the PorkFest after party. For those that just haven't had enough, that are sick and tired of all the rules of the Libertarian Festival that came before, comes true freedom at forkfest.party.
If you like the taste of minarchy that you get at Porkfest, you'll love the taste of anarchy that you get at Forkfest.
Let's go to Gigi calling in from Charleston. Gigi, you're on Free Talk Live.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Captain, I don't like it when you don't answer. I love your voice.
Captain is not on tonight.
He's not, so you're not hearing his voice.
Is this Mark?
Mark and Nobody and Chris.
Well, you have a beautiful voice like the captain.
Thank you so much. I think the captain.
Okay,
I think that everybody's voices pales compared to the captain's.
Okay. 2 points of interest for all the listeners out there in terms of hardcore consumer issues.
Okay.
Number one. My husband was shopping the other day right here in Charleston on Savannah Highway, the main drag, and went into the grocery store called Harris Teeter. And what did he see right there as he entered? A big sign saying, "We accept crypto."
Nice. I like
that.
I know. So for anybody listening in my neighborhood, if you use cryptocurrency, you can shop at Harris Teeter on Savannah Highway. And secondly, I have been a member for years, and I really believe in this organization, especially because I think it would fit in with your interest in non-American money, meaning no cash, no credit cards, no checks. It's called the barter exchange.
Right. These many towns have these.
Wonderful.
Yeah, many towns have these.
Yes, and many counties around the country have their own barter exchange organization. Goods for services, goods for goods, services for services. I used to advertise for my tutoring services. I have a PhD, and I was a professor for years in Miami. And some of my services that were exchanged for my academic skills were dental visits and chiropractic visits, and we never exchanged money. It was wonderful.
I worked for, well, more than one radio station, but one radio station in particular worked heavily with the barter exchange, and
I love it.
Yeah, it really works. Now, you have to do a certain level of claiming things in your taxes, but significantly less than you would otherwise.
Wait, people actually claim on their taxes when they barter?
They do.
Wow.
Through the barter exchange.
I haven't filed since 1999.
However, it's worth it. It really is a great program if you don't want to involve yourself with cash, credit cards, or checks. If you believe strongly in non-American monetary things such as cryptocurrency, or if you're just having difficulty with writing a check to pay for a good or a service, it's a wonderful way to promote your skills and services in exchange for something that you might need.
I think it's great. It's essentially the first alternative currency, and I'm completely for it. Thank you so much for the call, Gigi.
My
Appreciate
pleasure. Keep
Bye-bye.
it coming, gentlemen.
And you, too, can call in at 603-283-6160 here on Free Talk Live. Let's go to Ridley-O. Calling in from New Hampshire. Ridley, you're on Free Talk Live.
Hey, guys.
Hey, what's up?
You guys had a guest on your program, Erica Chenoweth, a professor who
Long
studies
ago, yes.
civic resistance, civil resistance, Gandhi-type stuff.
Yep.
And I've been, I listen to her, every 6 months I'll download all her most recent speeches and hear her out on all kinds of different things. And I wanted to share something with you that is a takeaway from all that listening to her. And it's one word or two words, labor strike. Chenoweth says that the labor strike, when used against an oppressive government or whatnot to try and gain concessions, is the most effective, historically, the most effective way of achieving concessions. And this brings me to a question for you guys that I kind of haven't. How would something like that be done, and under what circumstances should it be done in a place like New Hampshire? And who, if anyone, should be labor struck against?
Well, given the situation on the federal level, I don't think it would do us any good there, because the people running the federal government don't know how or why things are produced, and so
it's a mystery.
They won't make the connection between, if people aren't producing stuff, there won't be anything to consume. They'll just blithely keep walking till they fall in a hole.
They proved it over this COVID thing, right? Like, they have no idea.
Yeah.
Why aren't there stuff on the shelves?
And they proved it with the oil. Biden really thought that he could destroy the energy industry
without driving
up prices, and they would be
oil.
too nice to raise prices, because you don't raise prices unless you're greedy.
Right.
Isn't it amazing that energy executives went through their entire lives working only for the good of society and asking nothing in return, and then when Biden took office, they finally invented greed?
Yeah, that's when they invented greed, because at no point before that was there greed within the oil industry. It's really kind of ridiculous. Don't be greedy. Come on. I mean, as a politician that has bilked his way out of through millions. About don't be greedy.
This is the guy who's robbing us of hundreds of billions of dollars so he can send it to the Ukraine to pay them off for the $100 million that they gave his son. He doesn't mind stealing 100 times as much from us as he got paid.
Dave, as far as the labor strike and how it would work in New Hampshire, I think that probably you'd have to do a reverse. It would have to be a tax strike. So people would have to withhold their property tax. And the best I've seen, people just don't have the guts to do it.
Well, the problem
There's
with
not even a danger to it for the first several
tax
years.
Is the only way that you can, basically, the government will come and take your building, and then they'll sell it to somebody else, and they'll have more money than they would have if you had paid your taxes. But the only way to get around that that.
That doesn't work
is
that way.
to be in a sufficiently tight-knit and well-armed community so you can shoot the revenuers when they come for your property. Because you can't hide it. You can't move it. You can't put
Property
it
cannot be
someplace
moved.
else.
That's true.
They're going to come for it.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the taking up arms, but
I'm not recommending it. I'm just saying, realistically, in order to do a property tax strike, that's what you would have to do.
But it works the same way
everybody knows where the property is.
It works the same. Hold on, guys. It works the same way with a labor strike, because if you decide to go on a strike as a pipe fitter, 498 in Chicago, you're saying, I'm going on strike, and some scab crosses the line and takes your job, then, well, maybe, just maybe, you
let
never
him.
get it
You
back.
didn't want it, apparently, or you would have been doing it.
Sure. Well, that's what the good folks of Keene will say when you don't pay your property taxes, is that you must not have wanted your house.
Well, yeah, but they're morons.
Go ahead.
But that's the thing. You can stop paying your income taxes, and if you don't earn too much money, and you earn what you do earn off the books, you can probably get away with that. But you can't hide real estate. It's impossible. It's like putting a Cadillac in your nose.
Go ahead.
So
Dave.
the whole reason of bringing up this, the labor strike or general strike as an option is to remind people that there are many things they can do that are not violent against the government. And yet, Rich, you had to just go there, didn't you? The minute I try to bring up something nonviolent, you want to come up with a violent
I was not advocating that. I was talking about the realistic implications of a bad idea.
Really, I'm going to have to let you go. Thank you for the call.
Withholding property tax is a bad plan. They can steal way more from you if you don't pay your taxes than they can steal if you do.
603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Remember, if we're wrong tonight and you know what's right, let us know. 603-283-6160.
When a lunar observatory detects a radio broadcast originating from Proxima Centauri, the nations of Earth discover their first contact with an alien race may also be their last. With the Proximans facing an extinction-level disaster, Earth must choose between sending a ship on a multi-year journey or allowing nature to take its course. Saving Proxima, a hard science fiction thriller by Travis S. Taylor and Les Johnson from BaneBooks.com.
My name is Jacob Hornberger. I'm president of the Future of Freedom Foundation, which Congressman Ron Paul awarded for having an outstanding freedom website. Write us at fff@fff.org, and we'll send you a free 3-month subscription to our monthly journal of libertarian essays and our booklet, Economic Liberty in the Constitution, which George Mason University economics professor Walter Williams praised in a recent column. That's fff@fff.org.
I'm a little obsessed with My Magic Mud. Several years ago, I met Jessica Armand, the founder and CEO of My Magic Mud, and I didn't even know my teeth were coffee stained. A week's worth of use convinced me, and now I use it every 3 or 4 days. It's clinically proven to whiten teeth, and I think it cleans better, too. My Magic Mud's available at most local health food stores, Sprouts, Natural Grocers, CVS, Walmart's Natural Beauty Aisle, but I can get it for you for 20% off with coupon code FTL20 at mymagicmud.com. FTL20 mymagicmud.com.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, D.C., I'm Benji Haya. UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson's made a second surprise visit to Kiev for a meeting with President Volodymyr Zelensky, having in April become the first leader of a G7 country to travel to the Ukrainian capital since Russia's invasion. It follows a trip earlier this week by French President Emmanuel Macron, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, and Italian Prime Minister Mario Draghi, a move that has paved the way for Ukraine to potentially join the European Union. On Friday, the European Commission officially recommended that Ukraine be granted candidate status to the 27-member bloc. Ira Spitzer has more from Brussels.
Wearing the colors of the Ukrainian flag, Ursula von der Leyen, the president of the EU's executive branch, announced the recommendation that Ukraine be allowed to start the process of becoming part of the EU.
Ukraine has clearly demonstrated the country's aspiration and the country's determination to live up to European values and standards.
The Commission also recommended candidate status for Moldova, who, like Ukraine, applied to join the EU shortly after Russia invaded Ukraine in February. It didn't recommend candidate status, however, for now, to Georgia. The candidacies still require the approval of all 27 EU nations, who convene here next week for a leaders' summit.
Meanwhile, Russian President Vladimir Putin's criticised what he calls mad and thoughtless sanctions against his nation imposed following the invasion of Ukraine. He used his address at an economic conference in St. Petersburg to implore Russian businesses to keep working in the country. In the US, President Joe Biden says a recession is not inevitable, even in the wake of stark warnings from economists, as Gabrielle Fahmy reports from New York.
Speaking to the Associated Press from his Oval Office, U.S. President Joe Biden said the American people are, quote, really, really down after 2 years of pandemic, a volatile economy, and now surging gas prices. But he tried to offer a glimmer of hope, saying the U.S. is in a stronger position than any nation in the world to overcome inflation. His comments come after the central bank raised interest rates by another 75 basis points this week. The Feds are expected to continue to hike rates in the coming months.
And Britain's feeling sky high after it was announced the UK could host the Eurovision Song Contest in 2023. Sam Ryder came second in this year's edition with his song Spaceman, the UK's best result since 1998, losing out only to Ukraine. Usually the winner hosts next year's competition, but with the conflict raging on in the war-torn state, the European Broadcasting Union has instead begun discussions with the British Broadcasting Corporation. Downing Street's welcomed the possibility of holding the event in Britain. However, Ukraine's culture minister is demanding they still get to host. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks. Today we're going to take a closer look at the news that the British journalist Dom Phillips and the Amazon expert Bruno Pereira are confirmed to have been murdered several days ago in Brazil. Their loss is a stunning blow for their families and, of course, for millions of people concerned about the future of the Amazon basin. They'd been warned their activities were upsetting loggers, miners and illegal fishermen who operate with relative impunity in the region.
Bolsonaro has consistently disrespected the Amazon.
Erica Berenga is a tropical forest ecologist who says Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro, a climate change skeptic, has sought to create an environment in the Amazon that could have contributed to the murders.
He has slashed the budget of the Environmental Agency, of the Indigenous People Agency, and of the Parks and Reserves Agency in Brazil. Those are the agencies that would be fighting deforestation and fighting any illegal extractive activity. And he consistently has harmed the images of those agencies by his speeches, always calling them the villain, rather than those that are protecting the forests of the country.
The executive director of Greenpeace praised Phillips and Pereira as brave, passionate and determined.
A quick reminder of our top stories. UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson's made a second surprise visit to Kiev for a meeting with President Volodymyr Zelensky, having in April become the first leader of a G7 country to travel to the Ukrainian capital since Russia's invasion. It follows a trip earlier this week by French President Emmanuel Macron, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz and Italian Prime Minister Mario Draghi, a move that's paved the way for Ukraine to potentially join the European Union. And in the US, President Joe Biden says a recession is not inevitable, even in the wake of stark warnings from economists. That's the latest feature story news. I'm Benji Haya in Washington.
So, you're trying to get pregnant and nothing is working. Give it another shot. Because the key to getting pregnant is let people know you're trying, often and with great detail. By constantly announcing to your friends, family, and casual acquaintances that you're trying to conceive, you dramatically increase the chances of your partner putting a brand new bun in your oven. When I was trying for Lincoln, I made it a daily goal to bring up which position Hunter and I were experimenting with in every conversation I had. I told literally anyone I could, from teachers to babysitters to telemarketers, that I stand on my head after Hunter finishes inside me, and sharing that information really helped me conceive. Plus, people like hearing about it. There's nothing to be ashamed of or hide. What your husband's unprotected penis feels like as he thrusts. How you'll whisper possible baby names in his ear as he ejaculates. These are perfectly natural things to bring up at an office party or to announce at the beginning of a flight.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
That's right, it is Free Talk Live, and you are free to call in and talk live here on the airwaves. It's Mark with you.
We known as Rich Paul.
And Chris.
Sorry, nobody. I didn't quite get you on at the right time there. It's been wall-to-wall calls the whole first hour here on Free Talk Live, and we still have some more calls to get to, and I'm excited about that. We, of course, have the news story that we're reading through about Biden now sitting at some of his lowest ratings ever, scolding.
He's just biding his time.
Biding his time until what?
Till he forgets what's going on, and they can throw him out of office without him being aware of it.
Thought he was at that point.
Indeed. So the number 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Let's go to Matt calling in from New Hampshire. Matt, you're on Free Talk Live.
Hey, good evening, guys. This is Matt from the New Hampshire Independence Political Action Committee. I spoke on the phone with Ian a few months ago just about, letting him know when it's time for us to go live and when we're ready. And I wanted to call in to you gents tonight to say, yes, we're live. We're accepting contributions. The website is NIPAC.org, NHIPAC.org. We're on Gab. We're on Twitter. We're excited for this election season. I'm sure everybody knows this past spring we had CACR 32 go through the House for a roll call vote, and we had 13 votes for yes, one for each of the 13 colonies.
Independence.
And we hope to get more next year. So we're very, very excited. We've been challenged by a local rep running for a different kind of election to raise a certain sum of money, and we're actually well on our way to do that. I'm very surprised by the enthusiasm. We do want to say that we did, and I think we already knew about this, but Ian got first. We were very honored to have Ian be our first contributor. We appreciate his service with Free Talk Live and everything else he's known for here in the Liberty community in New Hampshire. So we're very excited for that.
And your goal is to see New Hampshire be independent of the United States federal government. Is that right?
That's true. That's true. Right now, we are the number one freest state, the number two safest. We're ranked number 4 in the Human Development Index. We have a very high quality state. We've got 4 seasons. We've got pretty much everything.
Yeah, and one of them's longer than the rest too.
Yeah,
and cold.
That's true. And I would say that we're leading. Like we're leading. The results kind of speak for themselves. So as the situation in the rest of the country gets worse, things are going to look better, here, just because we have certain infrastructure in place, or I should say lack of infrastructure in place, to make things easier. We can afford a higher quality of life. And I think
New Hampshire has the highest median income of any state in the U.S.
That's true. And I think that sometimes people, something's got to break, and sometimes you got to show the world that you know what you're talking about. And everybody likes to talk about, Texas or even most recently Florida or California seceding from the Union, but we're the ones actually having a vote on that, which is actually pretty incredible. And
and this is something that's very recent. Like, it's not new, but it's recent in terms of development that we've actually gotten. We've actually made serious progress, right? I'm not sure nobody else has even had a vote on it, let alone.
Well, but hold on. This is CHCR. So this is a House resolution. This is a non-binding vote, and I'm not sure that every state has a non-binding vote, a vote that is meaningless. Let's have a vote that doesn't matter.
It's technically what happened in the legislature was a vote on whether we should be allowed to vote on it.
That's correct.
Sure, but this is still way
too dangerous
more,
to vote on.
This is still way more progress than any other state has had. I think is ultimately what it comes down to. But we're still early in the process of it.
I'll say this, right?
And it doesn't
if you
always
want a thing to happen, you need to support it financially and with your time.
Sure.
I, however, have some questions about whether or not this is a good idea, and I want to get some of those in. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah. So I think, Mark, you're probably our biggest critic here. But I think what people sometimes have to remember is you don't necessarily have to. You can win the war and not, or you can fight a battle, lose the battle, and still win the war.
It happens.
And I think that's kind of what this independence thing in some regards is about. It's something to rally behind. It's something to get supporters behind, and it may not. It may fizzle out, or maybe it'll take a decade. You don't know. But the point is, we're doing something, and by showing that we're doing something, it will attract more interest. It'll attract more people to New Hampshire, and in time, we'll grow even bigger than we already are. And we've already grown substantially over the past 3 election cycles. It's only been 6 years, and we already added, I think, 30 state representatives.
That's the existence of the New Hampshire Independence Party has existed 3 election cycles, correct?
No. I'm actually talking about specifically free staters that have gotten elected over the last 3 election cycles. We went from 20 to 30 to 40 free staters. That doesn't include other reps that got elected that were already living in New Hampshire that were
I'm much
libertarian.
more interested in the number from the New Hampshire Liberty Alliance, people who've gotten rated A's, maybe even B pluses. I mean,
sure.
I'd like to see graphs of those and where they're at. I remember back in I think it was the
2060.
Yeah, it's a goodly number.
On that level. They're not accurate about everything. I don't think they lean a little bit conservative. But
I think that the only thing I've seen that I thought the New Hampshire Liberty Alliance kind of tiptoed around was New Hampshire's very odd death penalty. And I can see why a legislator doesn't want to die on that particular hill, that particular mole hill.
What would he have to do to die on that hill?
Well, assassinate a cop is what he would have to do. Basically, in New Hampshire, at least at one point, I don't know what the laws are specifically now.
I don't think New Hampshire's had executions in a long time.
But not since 1926. There hasn't been an execution, but there is somebody on death row. And you can only get on death row in New Hampshire by killing a cop. You cannot do it by killing an individual. That's correct.
That's something that I really think should be... I do think it's important to change that, just because,
I don't know if you're the best person to be proposing that.
People act like police lives matter and the rest of our lives don't matter, and that is very annoying. I mean, basically, what is it that happened in Texas?
Yeah.
They decided their lives were more important than the children that they were paid to protect.
It does bring up an interesting,
quite shameful, very shameful.
It does bring up an interesting point in that we have. You think that when your job, part of your, every job has certain, risks, right? And when part of your job description says, death in it, right? And it's, to protect and serve.
Well, you're
right?
more likely to die as a carpenter than as a cop.
And this is
not
thing.
that dangerous. They're just pussies about it.
If that's the thing, right? If that's what you're going to go around and telling everybody that you're here to protect and serve, and part of your risk, part of that job, that you take on, that responsibility is dying. Why is it that if you die, the person that you get killed by is somehow all of a sudden, you end up you should have some sort of additional protection that nobody else has. It just seems absolutely insane to me. If anything, you should be less protected than your average citizen because you took that responsibility on voluntarily, and you're paid to take that responsibility on.
And you're paid to ruin people's lives. You're paid to destroy people who have, in many cases, done nothing wrong.
I'm willing to go halfway with you
differ
guys.
from the politicians on matters of taste, like whether marijuana is better than alcohol. It is.
I'm willing to go halfway with you guys. I'm willing to say that police should not be held above citizens, the pool from which they are drawn, in any way. And we can see what happens when you lionize officer safety over presumably civilian safety. You get things like what happened in Texas. Now, I don't think necessarily that we should go and make them lower or anything like that. Let's leave it even.
I think they should have liability. They should be liable for their actions.
I agree with that 100%.
The only way
Matt, hold the line.
The only way to make them equal is to eliminate government and make them security guards.
Yeah, and security guards are putting their lives on the line, right?
More than cops.
We got lumberjacks here that die. More of them die than cops every year.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you're helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. That's Bitcoin.com. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com. There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
Join liberty-minded voluntarists, anarchists, and libertarians from June 27th through July 3rd for the 6th annual Fork Fest at Rogers Campground in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. Fork Fest is a fork of the Porcupine Freedom Festival, which sold out for the first time in 2021. Fork Fest takes place the week after Porkfest, but Fork Fest is decentralized, which means that there's no ticket cost and no one is in charge. All you have to do to join the fun is reserve your camping site, RV site, or motel room with Rogers Campground for June 27th through July 3rd. There's no better place to celebrate Independence Day than around other freedom-loving activists in the Shire. You can find out more at the unofficial website, forkfest.party. You can also connect with other attendees on the Forkfest Telegram and Matrix chat rooms, as well as the Forkfest Forum. You can find links to those at forkfest.party. We hope to see you there. Forkfest.party. There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in Liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live. The number, 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. You know what? I'm giving these numbers, and these phone lines are loaded. So we're not going to be able to take the call quite yet, but soon. Just keep calling. As soon as you hear me hang up with somebody, then it's going to be wide open. So, want to tell you about Odyssey. Free Talk Live's video archives have been on LBRY for years. That's LBRY, LBRY. It's an uncensorable, decentralized, blockchain-based media sharing protocol, and we're big fans of it here on Free Talk Live. In 2020, LBRY launched Odyssey, a video sharing website to compete with YouTube, and it's really taking off. Now with over 1 million channels, many of whom are disaffected YouTube creators. During YouTube's crackdown for not towing the government line on COVID, the Free Talk Live YouTube channel started receiving strikes and could be taken down permanently at any time, has been taken down multiple times. And thankfully, Odyssey has started offering live streaming so that we're now streaming live every night and posting our video archives permanently to Odyssey. You can watch live or anytime on our Odyssey channel by visiting video.freetalklive.com. Video.freetalklive.com. It's Mark with you.
The nobody formerly known as Rich Paul.
And Chris.
Let's go back to Matt from the New Hampshire Independence Party. Whoops. It doesn't look good for Matt there.
Did we lose him?
I think we did. By the looks of it. I want to go.
He
We got some
seceded
things
from
to clear
the
up.
call is what he did.
What's that?
He seceded from the call.
So CHCR 6, which was what the New Hampshire resolution was. Maybe it was 6, maybe it was 2. I don't know. I get these things confused. It's been years.
Yeah, sure.
Was binding, but was lost miserably. So I was wrong. It was non-binding. It was binding.
So what it would do is...
I would not say it was lost miserably. I would
No, not at all.
I was actually...
This is the first time it's come around.
Encouraged. How many states do you think that resolution would have gotten any votes at all in?
It won't even get to that point in any other state, because when they here's what happens. No state rep will dare to bring such a piece of legislation forward. First of all,
it requires testicular fortitude.
Even if you do, it won't get onto it won't ever get a vote in the House of Representatives, because in most states they can just get rid of it. Now, that's not the case in New Hampshire. But what's interesting in New Hampshire is that we actually, for the first time ever, this has not been the case in the past, we've actually had reps that have said, we're going to step up to the plate and do this. And not only did we have one rep being willing to do it, we had, I think it was 8 or 9 reps that were willing to do it. Co-signed. And then we had even more reps who voted for
13
Now, this
out
is
of presumably 400.
One of the biggest objections was we haven't yet had any kind of publicity or marketing effectively of the idea in New Hampshire. We don't even have bumper stickers yet. Now, this is interesting. We actually do have bumper stickers now, but they were just printed. We just got them this week. So you don't even know, reps don't even know that there's major support for this unless they've been really, really following it. And most don't. And they ask, well, how come I haven't heard from, anybody on this, like any of the, my
constituents?
Yeah. And the answer is very simple. If you ask people, if you take a poll on the street, there's actually massive support for it. But nobody has done any kind of significant, writing campaign or write to the reps or anything. There's been a few stories posted here and there, but considering that nothing has been done, it's not surprising. People don't even know that they had this vote that was happening, So for there not to be, support by the reps, no, that's actually the proper course of action. If you don't know that that anybody supports it, why would you vote for it? You should be doing what the people want. And if the people don't know about it, they actually, I think, voted the correct way in some respects.
Yeah, I think that the Overton window's been clawed over a little ways. I'm certainly willing to concede that. My main critique would be, and this is my main critique, is that number one, banking will be very difficult. That the United States will shut down the SWIFT numbers for any New Hampshire bank that's willing to, deal with the secessionists. And
speaking of which, have you heard that Russia now has the strongest fiat currency on Earth after having their SWIFT access cut off?
Yes, the global gas station known as Russia has managed to turn the war so far in some ways into its financial favor, but I don't think in the long run it's going to work out for them.
I can suspect you're right, Mark. But at the same token, I think that's a really poor reason not to move forward. But I think what we're forgetting is that New Hampshire doesn't.
They cut off the banks, no problem. Crypto.
I know there's solutions. I mean, also if they shut down the borders and say, hey, you're not going to travel to work in Boston, you're not going to be
massive. They're going to have a hard time shutting down the Canadian border, though. That was one of our considerations.
The Canadians are shutting down their own banking and their own borders. They don't need us.
Let's back up. Let's talk about why the government would not do to New Hampshire what they've done to Russia. And I'll give you a very, very, very good explanation. Economics. The economies of basically Boston and the region are so tightly entwined with New Hampshire. The United States would actually be hurting itself probably more than they would be hurting the people of New Hampshire. It just wouldn't make economic sense to do that. It's not to say they couldn't, but if you're going to hurt yourself as much or more.
I got to stop you right there and ask you, when has the government ever done anything that made economic sense?
Well, when it hurts the people in power, that's when.
If it hurts them personally, that's different.
And that's the thing. I don't think the government is going to, and there's some other reasons as well. It's not going to be a popular war, right? Like it's, when people start dying, and it's Americans, what people consider to be Americans.
Oh, I'm not prepared to say that it's going to get that far. I don't think it will.
I don't think it will either. And this is all the more reason why we should be shooting for it. Because ultimately, what do we lose? Okay, so
phrasing.
Right? All we lose is something we didn't have to begin with. That's the worst possible scenario. Is okay.
We have nothing to lose but our chains.
You could secede tomorrow. Right? Like you could just use your passport and leave the country, and then you don't have to deal with it.
It's not quite the same thing.
I don't have to deal with the feds if I don't feel like it.
Here's the thing. I don't
deal with somebody else's feds who are frequently worse.
I completely disagree with you on that, Mark, because the feds effectively control like almost anywhere anybody would want to live.
Well, that's true, but they will control New Hampshire when New Hampshire's not in it.
And I agree with you on that. However, I think the difference between, say, Honduras and New Hampshire is that who's living in Honduras that wants freedom? You don't change things if you've got three people who can live side by side with you and basically have no power.
There are certainly some people living in South America and Central America who want freedom. They spend most of their time huddled up on our southern border.
But the point that I think I want to make is that when you have people moving together in one region, you have power. You have a power base all of a sudden. We're spread. The problem with libertarians is that we're all spread out so thinly that we have no power bases anywhere. If you try to go and do a migration to Honduras, you'll not get it. You'll not have enough people who are able to move to Honduras to have a power base to actually affect politics.
Well, the goal would be.
The problem is there are 35 million libertarians, and they're operating 35 million separate.
And I would like. By the way, I would like to think otherwise. I just don't think it's true.
Free Talk Live, 603-283-6160.
Excuse me, is this where I get a license to start a new business?
I wouldn't be hasty. You have to get a license to go out of business, too, you know.
Oh, well, look, I've invented this little anti-gravity machine, see?
Oh, is that why you're walking 2 inches above the floor?
Oh, yes, it's very comfortable. It saves on shoe leather.
Yeah, well, you have to fill out these forms and report to the Human Services Department of Manpower Orientation and register with the Fair Employment Practice Commission, the Wage and Hour Division of the Employment Standards Administration, the State Sales and Income Tax Division, the Internal Revenue Service, and the Social Security Administration of the Department of Health, Education, and Welfare, and, of course, OSHA.
OSHA? I thought that was a little town in Wisconsin.
You'll find out. Say, floating around like that could be dangerous. Have you checked with the Consumer Product Safety Commission?
Well, not yet.
Come to think of it, you actually are flying, aren't you? Look, you need to go over to the Federal Aviation Administration and the Transportation...
It's very hard to get anything done these days if you're in business, but free enterprise built this country. Think what could happen if we don't keep it free. A public service of this station and the Center for the Defense of Free Enterprise, Bellevue, Washington.
Besides, we just can't have people floating about unregulated, you know.
From Feature Story News in Washington, D.C., I'm Benji Haya. UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson's made a second surprise visit to Kiev for a meeting with President Volodymyr Zelensky, having in April become the first leader of a G7 country to travel to the Ukrainian capital since Russia's invasion. It follows a trip earlier this week by French President Emmanuel Macron, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, and Italian Prime Minister Mario Draghi, a move that has paved the way for Ukraine to potentially join the European Union. On Friday, the European Commission officially recommended that Ukraine be granted candidate status to the 27-member bloc. Ira Spitzer has more from Brussels.
Wearing the colors of the Ukrainian flag, Ursula von der Leyen, the president of the EU's executive branch, announced the recommendation that Ukraine be allowed to start the process of becoming part of the EU.
Ukraine has clearly demonstrated the country's aspiration and the country's determination to live up to European values and standards.
The Commission also recommended candidate status for Moldova, who, like Ukraine, applied to join the EU shortly after Russia invaded Ukraine in February. It didn't recommend candidate status, however, for now, to Georgia. The candidacies still require the approval of all 27 EU nations, who convene here next week for a leaders' summit.
Meanwhile, Russian President Vladimir Putin's criticised what he calls mad and thoughtless sanctions against his nation imposed following the invasion of Ukraine. He used his address at an economic conference in St. Petersburg to implore Russian businesses to keep working in the country. In the US, President Joe Biden says a recession is not inevitable, even in the wake of stark warnings from economists, as Gabrielle Fahmy reports from New York.
Speaking to the Associated Press from his Oval Office, U.S. President Joe Biden said the American people are, quote, really, really down after 2 years of pandemic, a volatile economy, and now surging gas prices. But he tried to offer a glimmer of hope, saying the U.S. is in a stronger position than any nation in the world to overcome inflation. His comments come after the central bank raised interest rates by another 75 basis points this week. The Feds are expected to continue to hike rates in the coming months.
And Britain's feeling sky high after it was announced the UK could host the Eurovision Song Contest in 2023. Sam Ryder came second in this year's edition with his song Spaceman, the UK's best result since 1998, losing out only to Ukraine. Usually the winner hosts next year's competition, but with the conflict raging on in the war-torn state, the European Broadcasting Union has instead begun discussions with the British Broadcasting Corporation. Downing Street's welcomed the possibility of holding the event in Britain. However, Ukraine's culture minister is demanding they still get to host. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSA.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com.
Free Talk Live. Call in, talk about whatever you want. There is a phone line open. It's Mark with you.
The nobody formerly known as Rich Paul.
And Chris.
I'll give you that number. It's 603-283-6160. 603-283-6160. And we got into it over New Hampshire independence in the last segment, and I just wanted to make a couple of counters here so that we are clear on it.
You got to bring up your idea about, we talked about off air too.
What's that?
Well,
Running a buying Rogers campground and turning it into a monastery.
No. Utila Independence.
Okay, so I currently am working with a resort on the island of Utila, Honduras, and
there have been a lot of resorts. Is this your last resort?
There have been a lot of resorts.
And I think that it's probably never mentioned enough is that the United States government takes a different look at people who are outside the borders than those who are in. And when Americans are outside the borders, they tend to support their activities more than they, they're sort of pro-freedom, pro-American type of activities.
All right. So the CIA is going to support our coup? What is it? What's the word?
Coup? No.
Coup of Honduras?
I think not. I think it might be an exaggeration. But the CIA has done some horrifying things in Central America. But Honduras has always been felt like the United States' little brother. So they tend to be more.
If your big brother happens to be a violent psychopath,
indeed, you want to keep them happy.
Yeah.
So. Some of my critique of New Hampshire independence is that it is currently a state. There has only been a few places that have seceded from the United States, and none of them did well post-secession. We can look at Palau, and we can look at the Philippines today, and we can say, has kind of been a financial hit. And most of those people would like very much to get into the United States still. Now, New Hampshire is different in so much.
I would say those are very different places geographically speaking.
Well, yeah, they're much poorer.
Which is one of the opposition points to Utila in terms of it also being an island.
Right. Islands are tough. They're more easily defendable if that's what you want to do.
I thought they were harder to defend islands. It was the mainlands that we usually.
I tend to think not. I mean,
interesting point because I've heard other things from others.
Most countries can't do amphibious landings, but I mean, either way. So
as long as we don't have to fight the U.S. government, we're okay.
I think that's really if you're fighting the U.S. government, you have lost.
Probably right.
And that's whether you're in New Hampshire or whether in Utila or wherever you are, you have lost.
That's a point for Mark there on that argument.
Mostly when I'm looking at physical defense in Honduras, I'm looking against drug cartels.
Ooh, good point.
I don't want.
Yeah, dangerous. That's definitely probably a bigger threat than the government even.
Than the Honduran government or anything like that.
Yeah.
Now, sometimes it's been the same thing in Central American history.
That's another good point. Yeah.
So these are things worth talking about.
Well, I mean, this also goes back to security and defense ultimately, and why I've always been like, okay, well, with the Zetas, so you can have security. Will this regime allow you to import, real weaponry, not just small arms? Because if the answer is yes,
what's a small arm? Shotgun?
Yeah, shotguns.
Okay.
Shotguns, handguns, whatever. Yeah, I mean, that's exactly. You're going to need some sort of tanks, maybe some plane or aircraft of some kind.
No, you're
definitely going to need some ships.
Now, when we were talking about ZETEs previously, a ZETE isn't a secession from any government. And
no, I understand that. I understand that.
Yeah.
But if it enables you to set up your own security on, say, an island, right, and arm yourself against attacks, then you potentially have a situation where, okay, even if this government's okay with that, the next government you can defend yourself against. Because remember, you don't necessarily have to defend yourself against the entire government of Honduras. You just have to defend yourself, have enough of a defense where it's not worth it for Honduras to invade, the next regime to invade when they decide they don't like what you're doing.
You already cited pretty much the level of power that you'll need to survive, because the thing about Latin America is they seem to be very kind people, except that when they see somebody who has more than they do, all of a sudden they want to kill them.
I don't see. No, I think that might be a stereotype. It's true in some areas, but in my opinion, I've only been robbed once in my life, and it was in Las Vegas, Nevada. That's by American.
Okay. First off,
I got to get to these calls.
That's completely wrong, because you get robbed by the government every day, way worse than anybody ever did you in Vegas.
Yeah, that's true too.
Well, I want to get to the phone calls here, but more or less, what I would say is that if you're going to start trying to build weaponry to defend yourself from the beginning, you got no hope at all, because you'll sink so much money into weaponry, you'll never have a chance to build up anything else. So I disagree with that notion. Let me go to Olivia calling in from Arizona. Olivia, you're on Free Talk Live.
Hey, so I think it would be a really great outreach for the Shire Free Church to make like a promo or an ad or a bumper, I'm not sure what you want to call it, but to do Supreme Court cases that people don't know about that actually tell them what's really going on. So I'll give you like 3 quick examples. One is DeShaney versus Winnebago County Department of Social Services, where the Supreme Court ruled that despite a young boy being repeatedly abused at the hands of his father that social services was aware of but made no effort to remove the child, that after his mother sued the state because the child was put in a vegetative state at the hands of his father, the court ruled that the state had no special obligation to protect a citizen against harms it didn't create. So there's that one.
Is this a biological mother, biological father situation?
Yeah. Yeah, it's really an amazing government, business government. It's as businesses go, it's the greatest business on earth. You can sell your product to people who don't want it. You don't have to actually provide the services you're selling them, but you can force them to pay at gunpoint.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? And then you tell them they're citizens, which means that they have that a citizen has a duty of allegiance in exchange for a duty to be protected, but that we don't have a duty to be protected. So I think it'd be really cool if y'all made some like educational bumpers about this, because I tried to explain this to people that I know, and they look at me like I'm making stuff up, and I'm like, no, here, let me show you.
Well, they have no rebuttal to what you're saying. I mean, everybody innately knows that the government has no responsibility for doing what it says, and if they know that if their house gets burglarized, there's no way they can sue the cops for it. But if they paid for a security company, you sure could.
It's a combination,
especially if you buy your security from the same people you buy your insurance from, which is a very sensible and rational model, because that way your defense is provided by exactly the same people who lose money if your defense fails.
It all comes down to a combination of ignorance and denial, I think, with most people. You know, the one, they're ignorant of what's going on around them, and then when you tell them about it, they're in denial because they don't want it to be true, right? I mean, who wants, to learn that, they're being robbed, right?
I haven't been paying attention to this, the whole thing, my whole life, and now suddenly when it's been brought to the forefront, I realize, I've just been ignoring everything.
Which
for
is
most
worse,
people,
ignorance or apathy? Who knows? Who cares?
For most people, the money's being taken from their taxes, and they have no idea how much they're paying, right? Most people don't even know what the sales tax rate is in their area or whatever, let alone, what their, income taxes are, or
except on prepared food, 9%.
Well, yeah, you're way. See, we're different in this one. We know what we're paying. Most people, think about it. You pay, there's a certain amount that they take from your paycheck, right? Yep. That they don't tell you about because it's not part of your salary officially. And then there's the other part that gets reported on your paycheck, but it's twice that because it's hidden. It's a hidden tax. And we have all sorts of hidden taxes. Like tariffs are another great hidden tax.
Inflation.
The prices on the products are higher, but there's actually it's not just a sales tax that you're paying. There's another 25% tax that you might be paying because of tariffs.
Very good, Olivia. Thank you for the call. Didn't exactly hear what she said. The number 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160 here on Free Talk Live.
Why did you move to the Shire?
I moved here to the Shire because there's other people around who take liberty just as seriously as I do.
I moved to the Shire because I saw videos of people challenging authority and thought that I could get support myself. It called to me, do this, right now.
I wanted to be around people like me who got it, and once I got here, I knew there was nowhere else that I wanted to be.
I've always wanted to change the world, so I moved to the Shire to join people who were actually working towards doing the same thing.
The people here are awesome, loving, and positive. It was for the adventure and for the feeling of something important is happening here. And I just wanted to come to sort of be part of that.
Visit ShireSociety.com to read and sign the Shire Society Declaration and learn the reasons why, if you love liberty, you should immigrate to the Shire. Plus, connect with others via the forum at shiresociety.com. That's shiresociety.com. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com. What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
So the protection of life, liberty, and property is what the Free State Project is all about. But it's an effort to move 20,000 people who understand.
It's about demonstrating to the entire country
that, yeah, we can have a free market, a truly free market.
Making it just a freer, great place to live.
It's the world's largest voluntarist libertarian community, and it's only getting bigger.
That's amazing, to be able to move to a place where other people passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money where their mouth is. It's physically getting up across the country and saying, let's go someplace and let's demonstrate the power of these ideas. There's a lot of kind of philosophy that surrounds liberty. There's a lot of thinking about it and talking about it. But here in New Hampshire, people are doing it.
101 Reasons Liberty Lives in New Hampshire, a documentary by Free State Project early movers. Watch it free at 101reasonsfilm.com. 101reasonsfilm.com. Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm. The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount.
You can help spread the ideas of liberty with our Patreon for just $5 per month at amps.freetalklive.com.
Free Talk Live. Call in. Talk about whatever's on your mind. It's Mark with you.
Nobody.
And Chris.
603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Bitcoin.com is the best source for learning about cryptocurrency. You can go there now and click on Get Started at the top of the page. Once you do that, you'll find all sorts of valuable information neatly organized to suit your needs. There's no longer an excuse for ignoring this important, world-changing information. If you are a knowledgeable crypto user, you can check out news.bitcoin.com to get the latest headlines of all the news that's relevant to you. Bitcoin.com is your source for everything crypto, like getting a wallet, mining, trading, buying, selling, whatever it is you need to do that has to do with cryptocurrency. They've got it all, including the latest news, all on a slick and easy-to-use website at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com. Guys, there have been so many calls tonight, and I want to apologize to everybody who's been on for a long time. Let's go to Mac in Colorado. Mac, you're on Free Talk Live.
Hey, Mark. Nobody. Chris.
What's up?
So I had a question for you, Mark.
Yes, sir.
How often do you travel and give out maybe business cards to people who don't know what Free Talk Live is?
You know, I probably don't carry them as often as I should.
Wait, really?
Yeah, I mean, I probably don't have them all. I don't have them all the time.
Aren't you a sales guy?
I know. Well, not really that much anymore.
Yeah,
to be honest.
Yeah, probably not for a while now, huh?
So.
Well, I feel like not just you, Mark, but maybe if listeners, or maybe if there was some sort of program that rewarded listeners for, like, I don't know, doing word of mouth, so to speak, of Free Talk Live at like events and stuff, and political events, whatever people fancy, and hand out cards and explain what the show's about. So you can get more listeners and more diverse opinions calling in.
Yeah, I've certainly gone to a bunch of different events, and basically when I'm in town, some libertarian knows it. When I used social media a little more regularly, they would find out. They'd be like, "Hey, we're having a meetup, or there's a Liberty on the Rocks, or whatever's going on, and would you come out and say a few words?" Probably happened most recently when I was in Playa del Carmen, Mexico. I ran into fellow libertarian right on the street. Just saw him, and he's like, "Mark," and I ended up probably a few days later at one of their cryptocurrency meetups talking about Free Talk Live and how we got raided by the FBI. So these things do happen. It's always been pleasant for me being recognized, by the way. So far, it doesn't happen that often, mind you. I'm on radio. I'm not on television, which is, in many ways a blessing.
You've got the face for it.
Okay, so, and then on to my next subject.
Yes, sir.
Nobody, Chris. Why not both?
Nobody, Chris. Why not both?
Both of you guys.
Why not both?
Why not
Nobody
both?
and Chris?
Why not Bitcoin? Why not Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash? Why not both?
Well, I mean, certainly that's better than just BTC. My issue with Bitcoin is that it is hyped as by the mainstream media as the be-all and end-all of what cryptocurrency is. And so I don't want for people's first and frequently only impression of cryptocurrency to be a cryptocurrency that happens to be worthless for use as a cryptocurrency. I would like them to see, as the exemplar of a cryptocurrency that will actually achieve the goals that cryptocurrency set for itself at the beginning. And that involves replacing Visa and MasterCard and their 3% fees by having much, much lower fees. It involves banking the poor, banking people who earn $2 and $3 a day. You can't do that if you have to pay a $3 fee to buy a $2 cup of coffee. So Bitcoin is just. I'm a great believer in Unix, and Unix believes that a computer program should do one thing and do it very well. Bitcoin does one thing, and it does it very badly. And that's not my goal for software.
I don't think that's always been the case.
It hasn't. It started out good, and I think it was intentionally sabotaged by Blockstream so that they could make it look like crypto was worthless. And I think that's also why it is the one cryptocurrency that the mainstream media hypes, because the mainstream media doesn't want us to have a good cryptocurrency, and it doesn't want wide acceptance of cryptocurrency.
Yeah, I don't know. This is one of these things where I wouldn't. I'm not particularly harsh on Bitcoin. I think it's still useful, even though I understand that most, it's not useful for small purchases, and certainly it's not my favorite crypto. I think something more like Monero would be my favorite crypto.
You got the shirt on.
Yes, I do. But at the same time, I also recognize that we don't have the tools at this point to really see widespread acceptance of Monero. So how do you if you
Bitcoin, we certainly have the tools.
And Bitcoin Cash are still way better.
Widespread existence of
acceptance. You mean
we have the tools for widespread acceptance of Bitcoin Cash because Bitcoin Cash is the real Bitcoin.
So either way, I think the point is that I'm trying to make is that I kind of want to say that you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. It's sort of like that.
No, you keep the Bitcoin Cash. You just throw the Bitcoin out.
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think this is one of these things
I'm
where
going to use what's convenient for me. And, a lot of people want BTC. They recognize the brand and
it works.
I can't swim up every river, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah,
I don't know. I was telling somebody how great Bitcoin was in 2017, I remember. And I got a phone call back from them a few days later, and they said, hey, I took your advice. I bought some Bitcoin on Coinbase, and I sent it to myself, and it's been stuck on the blockchain for 2 weeks.
Yeah,
what the hell do you think that's good for? Well, that's what happens when you have tiny block sizes and you refuse to scale. Now, as an IT protection professional, when I've got a piece of software in production and it doesn't do what the customers expect it to do, I'm going to do whatever the hell it takes to make it work.
I don't think your criticism is overdoing it so much as it's been done to death, right? It
hasn't been done enough to get the poor suckers
to change
off the idea.
It's not going to change.
That you can have a digital store of value that is of no value for its intended purpose.
I think the counter to that is most of its life, Bitcoin has not had those insane fees or had that problem.
Right. I sent some BTC today.
No,
it was like 14 cents.
Yeah.
It's only when it gets popular that happens.
And I think the point is, yes, we should move on from BTC. But at the same token, making it out as if like BTC is, you can't use BTC. I think it's a bit. I think it undermines your cause.
If you earn $3 a day, that 14 cents.
How many people do you know
$3?
How many people do you know that earn $3 a day? I get that there's people out there like that, but most of the people listening are not. Sure.
But the thing is, I'm not just interested in rich Americans. One of the promises of crypto is to be able to bank the poor. And when I say poor, I'm talking about real poverty, absolute poverty, which is defined, last I heard, as $2 a day, although it probably costs
up to $3
a day.
It's absolute
now
poverty, I think is what you're talking about.
Yeah. So, Mac, let me get some final words from you here.
That's pretty much it. I'm just gonna probably still stack BTC, and then when need be, sell it for Bitcoin Cash.
It seems like a better thing to store your wealth in. It seems like it's going to go up and down with less ferocity and less opportunity to lose money. That's my opinion.
I think
what's that? Bitcoin Cash or Bitcoin?
Yeah, I think ultimately at the end of the day, what it comes down to is what works today best might be BTC for some purposes, and then there may be other cryptos like Monero that works better today for privacy.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Monero
and tomorrow
will
it'll be something
have
else.
A warm place in my heart. I mean, I can't give up on that.
Yeah.
The value of a crypto is how many transactions it will pay for. So
the number 603-283-6160. Free Talk Live.
Brute force, intransigent defiance, adamantine will. These are the hallmarks of the AI tank. These gigantic machines have the firepower of an army, but they also have their own sense of honor and duty. When the world breakers arrive, battle will be joined, planets will shake, and war and peace will never be the same again. World Breakers. Stories from David Weber, Larry Correia, and more. Available August 3rd from BaneBooks.com.
Are you tired of your taxes funding endless occupations around the world? Antiwar.com is run by people who understand that wars abroad become wars at home, wars on our freedoms. Antiwar.com is dedicated to bringing you the latest in news, views, interviews, and reviews from the top movers and shakers in the anti-occupation movement. Antiwar.com has it all, from thorough foreign policy analysis to interviews with whistleblowers who used to run the military-industrial complex. Anti-war, pro-free market. That's antiwar.com.
I'm crazy about My Magic Mud. This is the most important oral care product created this millennium, and I'm not kidding. We all have different opinions on politics and issues, but we all have mouths. And I want yours to be as clean as possible, with teeth as bright as they were meant to be. I will never be without My Magic Mud. It's a little surprising, but man, does it work. If you only listen to one thing I say ever, go to mymagicmud.com and get 20% off with code FTL. mymagicmud.com, code FTL.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, D.C., I'm Benji Haya. UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson's made a second surprise visit to Kiev for a meeting with President Volodymyr Zelensky, having in April become the first leader of a G7 country to travel to the Ukrainian capital since Russia's invasion. It follows a trip earlier this week by French President Emmanuel Macron, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, and Italian Prime Minister Mario Draghi, a move that has paved the way for Ukraine to potentially join the European Union. On Friday, the European Commission officially recommended that Ukraine be granted candidate status to the 27-member bloc. Ira Spitzer has more from Brussels.
Wearing the colors of the Ukrainian flag, Ursula von der Leyen, the president of the EU's executive branch, announced the recommendation that Ukraine be allowed to start the process of becoming part of the EU.
Ukraine has clearly demonstrated the country's aspiration and the country's determination to live up to European values and standards.
The Commission also recommended candidate status for Moldova, who, like Ukraine, applied to join the EU shortly after Russia invaded Ukraine in February. It didn't recommend candidate status, however, for now, to Georgia. The candidacies still require the approval of all 27 EU nations, who convene here next week for a leaders' summit.
Meanwhile, Russian President Vladimir Putin's criticised what he calls mad and thoughtless sanctions against his nation imposed following the invasion of Ukraine. He used his address at an economic conference in St. Petersburg to implore Russian businesses to keep working in the country. In the US, President Joe Biden says a recession is not inevitable, even in the wake of stark warnings from economists, as Gabrielle Fahmy reports from New York.
Speaking to the Associated Press from his Oval Office, U.S. President Joe Biden said the American people are, quote, really, really down after 2 years of pandemic, a volatile economy, and now surging gas prices. But he tried to offer a glimmer of hope, saying the U.S. is in a stronger position than any nation in the world to overcome inflation. His comments come after the central bank raised interest rates by another 75 basis points this week. The Feds are expected to continue to hike rates in the coming months.
And Britain's feeling sky high after it was announced the UK could host the Eurovision Song Contest in 2023. Sam Ryder came second in this year's edition with his song Spaceman, the UK's best result since 1998, losing out only to Ukraine. Usually the winner hosts next year's competition, but with the conflict raging on in the war-torn state, the European Broadcasting Union has instead begun discussions with the British Broadcasting Corporation. Downing Street's welcomed the possibility of holding the event in Britain. However, Ukraine's culture minister is demanding they still get to host. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks. Today we're going to take a closer look at the news that the British journalist Dom Phillips and the Amazon expert Bruno Pereira are confirmed to have been murdered several days ago in Brazil. Their loss is a stunning blow for their families and, of course, for millions of people concerned about the future of the Amazon basin. They'd been warned their activities were upsetting loggers, miners and illegal fishermen who operate with relative impunity in the region.
Bolsonaro has consistently disrespected the Amazon.
Erica Berenga is a tropical forest ecologist who says Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro, a climate change skeptic, has sought to create an environment in the Amazon that could have contributed to the murders.
He has slashed the budget of the Environmental Agency, of the Indigenous People Agency, and of the Parks and Reserves Agency in Brazil. Those are the agencies that would be fighting deforestation and fighting any illegal extractive activity. And he consistently has harmed the images of those agencies by his speeches, always calling them the villain, rather than those that are protecting the forests of the country.
The executive director of Greenpeace praised Phillips and Pereira as brave, passionate and determined.
A quick reminder of our top stories. UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson's made a second surprise visit to Kiev for a meeting with President Volodymyr Zelensky, having in April become the first leader of a G7 country to travel to the Ukrainian capital since Russia's invasion. It follows a trip earlier this week by French President Emmanuel Macron, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz and Italian Prime Minister Mario Draghi, a move that's paved the way for Ukraine to potentially join the European Union. And in the US, President Joe Biden says a recession is not inevitable, even in the wake of stark warnings from economists. That's the latest feature story news. I'm Benji Haya in Washington.
If he looks different than the other students on this college campus, it's because he's only 13 years old. But the amazing young Tyler is already consuming alcohol on the level of someone twice his age, and his talents have gotten him accepted at Ohio State University. We are lucky to be joined today by the little prodigy himself, along with Tyler's parents, Jack and Christine. Good morning, guys.
Thanks for having us. Tyler, most kids your age are in middle school and probably think that alcohol doesn't taste good, but not you.
Yeah, I like to drink liquor or beer or whatever. There's way more beer at college than at my house.
I'll bet there is. Your professors and classmates, everyone there at OSU says you just fit right in. You must have a lot of new friends.
Yeah, I'm just like everybody else. I go to class, I show up wasted, I leave early.
Wow.
So many impressive moments. You're active in a fraternity. You've streaked at 4 baseball games. You've broken an arm falling off a house. You've even made the wall of shame at O'Hooligans.
That night was stupid crazy.
That was a special day.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
Free Talk Live, 603-283-6160. 603-283-6160. F it, we'll do it live here on Free Talk Live.
That was actually the intended title for a podcast I was going to do at one point.
It's Mark with you.
The nobody formerly known as Rich Paul.
And Chris.
And we have calls on the line, so we are, of course, going to get to those. Before we do, however, I want to tell you about Freedom's Phoenix. It's your source for all the news, economic news, government overreach, insane government spending, and more. Get today's headlines.
Is there any other kind of government spending?
All in one place and from a fresh libertarian perspective. You can find this and more at freedoms, with an S, phoenix.com. It's freedomsphoenix.com. If you don't know how to spell Phoenix, it's okay. One of the search engines will fill it in for you. Because believe me, I don't know how to spell Phoenix. I just type it in. Go from there.
That's funny.
Yeah, sorry, I just can't do it. I probably should practice, but have not. Let's go to Sarah calling in from New Mexico. Sarah, you're on Free Talk Live. Sarah. Oop, did I push the right? Yeah, I pushed the right button. We're on.
If she's off the line, you push the right button.
I believe she is. All right, well, I don't know what to say.
Terrible, nobody.
I know, I'm a bad man. I've got a question for her tonight, actually. So
let's just go ahead and take this other call here on Free Talk Live. You're live.
It's New Mexico again.
Excellent.
You lose. Yeah.
Hey, nobody just illustrated one of my points that I was going to ask you about. But first of all, Africa, nobody is correct. There are millions and millions and tens of millions of, and possibly even 100 million Africans that live on 50 cents a day, $1 a day, $2 a day, $3 a day. They're styling, man. They are styling. They do things like get paid 50 cents for a day to walk 7 miles from one town to another with a 40-pound load on their head to deliver it while delivery trucks whiz by them because they cost more.
Hell, somebody's got to deliver that stuff.
Yeah.
Well, well, no. People have to do that because they don't have capital.
Sure.
But it can be done in more efficient ways. And that means lower prices and higher wages. And that's the name of the game when it comes to economics, because that means that your economy is functioning well,
maturing,
in doing what economies do, which is meeting as best they can the infinite needs of, or the infinite desires of human beings using limited means.
Well, it takes a little while for an economy to mature, and I think that's important. Is that there's no good or bad here. Whose ancestors didn't, do these kind of menial tasks?
Well, there is. Wait a minute.
Hold on.
People are being left behind by progress, and a lot of the reason. I mean, there's a number of reasons they're being left behind, but Hernando de Soto, not the conquistador, but the economist, wrote a wonderful book called The Mystery of Capital.
So de Soto, no doubt, is a genius. David, would you please?
Yeah. So, my only point was to support nobody's point that these people exist. And that. I didn't mean to go into all the rest of it. I knew I was taking a risk even going to Africa because I figured that would happen. But
going to Africa is often a risk.
Yes, and but those people exist is the point. And then Mark, let me counter Mark as long as you put yourself out on the line. In the world that we have, where we have space stations that are 300 feet long and multiples of them floating around up in space, there's no excuse for people getting paid 50 cents a day over in Africa to carry 40 pounds on the top of their head 7 miles as delivery trucks whiz by them. And now on to my point.
You have touched one of my favorites, the sweatshop defense. And I've got to say, I will defend a sweatshop because there's only one way for an economy to grow, to prosper, to mature, and that is for us to go through the single steps. If you find a bunch of guys living in people living in the Stone Age on some island someplace, they're not immediately going to be able to jump to cell phones and all the luxuries of modern life. They have to go through the steps. Now they'll be able to do it much more quickly than our ancestors did, because in many cases they had to forge the way. They had to create the ability of capitalism to create the industrial revolution and a variety of things like that. And so they can often do it in a lifetime, which day to day may not look so great, but but in a lifetime it looks pretty good.
The problem is that if you're being robbed blind by the system, then that's going to be a huge disadvantage in the actual thing that has to be accomplished in order to improve people's lives, and that is the acquisition and concentration of capital.
So there's very few third world countries that I would go and besmirch with the label capitalist. All right, they're almost all socialist because poor people love to vote for social. Even when there's no money to steal, they love to vote for socialism. So what I believe,
doesn't everybody love to vote for the people who are going to give them more free stuff?
Well, that's everybody
promises.
Everybody who loves to vote loves to vote for the people who pretend to care about them.
They do.
Yeah.
Now, so I think that when I think about this, I think that if you bring real capitalism, and real capitalism means honoring your word, to my mind. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this is, free market. Maybe this is morality. I don't know what it is. But I don't believe that you can steal from people and call that capitalism. I think we call that government.
There's a lot of people in the world who are stealing from people and calling it capitalism. And the reason they do it is because lying and stealing go great together.
There's still the dichotomy, though, in a space-age world where the world is almost one, that you have people living like that. There's really no excuse for it, especially when people within 20 miles of them are zipping around in Jaguars and Mercedes and have everything that we have. But, because we don't have the same thing here. You don't have the super, super poor living on $1 a day coexisting with those driving Mercedes, talking on their cell phone, and owning condos and stuff like that. But
if the government keeps growing, we can aspire to that.
I mean, what would you do? What would you have us do to solve this problem?
Well, you don't have enough radio time to discuss that whole thing, so there's no point in even beginning it. Because if you want to dedicate a whole hour to it, I'm willing to stay on the line.
You got about 30 seconds, man. So speak up and be quick.
4 words: get rid of government.
And Mark, to make my other point that I called about and that nobody illustrated quite well, 2 things. Number one is talking about Sarah, for instance. Why does a business ridicule its best customers?
Why does a business ridicule its best customers?
Generally, the best customers are the people who generate the most profit, not the people who take
Sarah
up the most.
Well, you don't even
Sarah doesn't even listen to the show.
Then, nobody, you don't even understand your own business model because you.
Is she buying advertising? I don't know about.
No, yes, she is. You're selling advertising based on Sarah. You wouldn't, if she wasn't good for business, you wouldn't repeatedly take her call and keep her on longer than any other caller, using her to illustrate your points of how you're different from her.
Hold on. So
you've answered your own question. That's why we ridicule Sarah.
This is actually my business.
I never had a question.
I understand
it was a rhetorical question.
I'm going to tell you this. I've certainly had callers that I disagree with, the callers that I think are bad for the air. But I'll tell you, when you've got an ideologue like Ian Freeman that runs the show, calls it Free Talk Live, he believes his hands are tied. What can I do? It's Free Talk Live. He's going to take the calls because that's what the show's about.
He's principled.
Yeah,
that's what it comes down to.
Do it for that reason.
It's not about the money, it's about principle.
Thanks for the call. Call BS. He's calling BS. Well, I gave the best answer I had. The number 603-283-6160 here on Free Talk Live.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com. There are basically 2 types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, Mark at freetalklive.com.
because we are smothering in spam, please do not reply to all when you can instead reply. I was recently among over 100 invited to a corporate reunion. It's always a warm affair, and that's the problem. Enthusiasm for our upcoming get-together caused many recipients to RSVP the organizer with a cheery reply to all. I can't wait. Then others piled on with a reply to all to that. Then the "I'm out of my office now" autoresponders joined in. So I replied to all, asking that we all reply only to the organizer. Hey, at least I tried. One invitee, apparently retired, shot back, "Point taken, but I really like seeing the responses since they're so positive." Smiley face. This better be an open bar. From survivalspeech.com, I'm Holland Cook.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in Liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
Yep, we still do email. Drop your email address in the entry box at freetalklive.com, and you'll be kept in the loop with Free Talk Live.
Free Talk Live. Call in at 603-283-6160. Talk about whatever's on your mind. 603-283-6160. Mark?
Nobody.
And Chris.
Perfect. And guys, there are no phone calls. This is the first segment of this show where we haven't had phone calls.
Ah, finally.
So, there you go. Let's...
Is that a good thing? Is that what we're aiming for?
No, I'm just saying that things have changed from the way they have the rest of the show.
Break. I finally can get a word in.
No, God.
I'm still here.
Yeah, Rich is doing fine. So we were talking previously about this article from Yahoo News. Biden chastens oil industry over fuel costs. And I just think this is kind of silly. I mean, does Biden think that greedy corporations just suddenly became greedy?
He's just using capitalism as an excuse to, basically take advantage. I mean, he's taking advantage of a population, effectively, who doesn't understand that capitalism isn't the problem. It's the thing that's made them prosperous, and it's the socialism that he's trying to put in place that's actually been causing our economic decline, for a while.
It's hard to tell if he's an idiot or if he just thinks that we're idiots. Most presidents just think that we're idiots, so they tell the same sort of lies. But most presidents don't shake hands with nobody. Not me, the other one. Most presidents, don't talk about, when they used to be truck drivers, when they provably were never truck drivers. Most presidents, when they molest children, they do it in private, not on camera. And
wow.
So Biden, I think, is in a whole different class and just operating as a puppet. But who knows? He may just be cunning and think, wow, if they think I'm just a moron, I can get away with doing all this stuff.
No.
Many years ago, I was at a convention.
Billions of their
Hold on,
dollars
Rich.
to pay back the people who paid my son off.
All right, go on. I muted him.
So I want to tell this story where years and years ago, I met Joe Biden along with Ian Freeman. And what happened was that Biden was giving a speech out in front of this whole talkers convention. It was the Air America time frame. I don't know what year it was, but let's call it 2008 or something like that, way back, maybe even before that. And I there he is giving a speech. Rachel Maddow's interviewing them before she was on television or anything like that.
Mad cow.
And he turns to the audience, raises his hands for applause. At the end of his speech, it's a room full of Republican talk show hosts. They literally were booing him. And what's he do? He's preparing for his applause. He just stands there as though he's being applauded. Then he runs to the door to get the people coming out the door to shake their hands. I mean, and the only thing I think is this guy's soulless. And I haven't changed my mind. Hold on. There's a really great part of this because
that does make it easier to be a politician.
He is absolutely soulless in a way that is beyond even a politician's abilities. Then my good friend Ian, my co-host Ian's behind me. We're going through the door. Now, you know how I am. I'm mild-mannered, whatever. Joe grabs my hand, shakes it like a dead fish, and then off I go. Well, Ian reaches out his hand. And do you know what the hairy hand is? Like from the 80s when you reach out to give a handshake and then you quick pull it through your hair. He literally gives the hairy hand to the future president of the United States.
Wow.
That is a hilarious story.
That's a wonderful thing.
I've only seen him do it once.
Because
and it had to be a president.
These people need to know that at least somebody knows that they're scum.
Yeah,
somebody knows you're scum.
I want to go back and make a point. So politicians tell you what they want you to, or what you want to hear. Okay, that's how they get your votes. They don't do what they tell you that they're going to do. We're just remember that,
Actually, Biden is. I got to give Biden credit for being an honest politician. Surely he promised an extravagant amount of money to the Ukraine for paying his son off to the tune of millions of dollars, and he's delivering in spades. He said he would destroy the American energy industry, and he has destroyed the American energy industry.
Oh, I know it's destroyed, but
I don't think he's giving you the whole story. I mean, he's telling you what you want to hear. He's failing to tell you.
I don't want to hear that people are going to pay the Ukrainians off and destroy the energy industry.
Sure. But you're a unique individual. What most people want to hear is maybe the better way to phrase that. It's he's telling you what you want to hear. He's not telling you the part how you're going to pay for it.
Yeah, that's the truth. Let me tell you real quick about Freedom Fest. From July the 13th through the 16th, that's next month, I will join thousands of passionate defenders of liberty in the Mirage in Las Vegas for Freedom Fest, the world's largest gathering of free minds. Freedom Fest is an intense, rewarding 4-day conference like no other with big debates, world-class speakers, a film festival, social events, the Trade Show for Liberty, and much more. This year, I'm talking about locating liberty with hundreds of other premier speakers and top-level experts in a wide range of topics. Speakers like Lisa Kennedy, John Cleese, Ben Stein, Steve Forbes, Rand Paul, John Mackey, Zubi Udaze, I gotta get his name right. Del Bigtree, Glenn Greenwald. It's big names there at Freedom Fest. It's freedomfest.com. Use coupon code FTL50 and you can get $50 off the regular rate. And by the way, bring somebody else and they get there's sort of a couple's rate. Not that you have to be a couple or whatever, but bring another person. It's freedomfest.com.
You don't have to be a couple to get the couple's rate?
That's correct.
That's confusing.
July 13th through the 16th at the Mirage in Las Vegas. freedomfest.com.
Can you get the big spenders rate without being a big spender?
I don't know. I haven't even heard about the big spenders rate. Perhaps you know more about it than I.
Well.
So, quoting here from Biden, refinery profit margins well above normal being passed directly on to American families are not acceptable, Biden wrote in the letter to executives from Shell, Marathon, Petroleum Corp,
Valero Energy, ExxonMobil, Phillips 66, and BP, Chevron.
You think that profit margins increase when some moron cuts off all foreign trade?
Right, when there's less competition, you're going to have larger margins, and that's just how that goes. This is economics, and a man who's been in politics for 40 years ought to understand it. My administration is prepared to use all...
Well, he understood it enough to get rich on a salary of less than $200,000 a year. He's literally a multimillionaire.
Yes, but he got that way through graft, not through serving people.
He's serving somebody.
My administration is prepared to use all reasonable and appropriate federal government tools and emergency authorities to increase refinery capacity and output in the near term and to ensure that every region of this country is appropriately supplied. Well, you can't just turn this stuff on and off.
He did say appropriate, and to him, freedom is inappropriate. It's not civilized.
The number, 603-283-6160.
Carl Watner, longtime proponent of a voluntary society, died last December. You may have seen his articles published on his website, voluntarist.com, in his newsletter, The Voluntarist, the Mises Institute, or elsewhere over the last 40 years. His newest book, I Must Speak Out, Volume 2, The Best of the Voluntarist, is now available via Liberty Under Attack Publications. This 430-page second volume spans the years of 2000 through 2020 and includes articles by Carl Watner, Hans Hermann Hoppe, Carl Hess, Benjamin Tucker, George H. Smith, Lysander Spooner, Pete Eyre, Joyce Brand, and many others. I Must Speak Out is for the newly initiated, the veteran voluntarist, or anywhere in between. Buy the book now at libertyunderattack.com/voluntarist. For more great content on building a voluntary society and for Carl's extensive archives, check out voluntarist.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, D.C., I'm Benji Haya. UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson's made a second surprise visit to Kiev for a meeting with President Volodymyr Zelensky, having in April become the first leader of a G7 country to travel to the Ukrainian capital since Russia's invasion. It follows a trip earlier this week by French President Emmanuel Macron, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, and Italian Prime Minister Mario Draghi, a move that has paved the way for Ukraine to potentially join the European Union. On Friday, the European Commission officially recommended that Ukraine be granted candidate status to the 27-member bloc. Ira Spitzer has more from Brussels.
Wearing the colors of the Ukrainian flag, Ursula von der Leyen, the president of the EU's executive branch, announced the recommendation that Ukraine be allowed to start the process of becoming part of the EU.
Ukraine has clearly demonstrated the country's aspiration and the country's determination to live up to European values and standards.
The Commission also recommended candidate status for Moldova, who, like Ukraine, applied to join the EU shortly after Russia invaded Ukraine in February. It didn't recommend candidate status, however, for now, to Georgia. The candidacies still require the approval of all 27 EU nations, who convene here next week for a leaders' summit.
Meanwhile, Russian President Vladimir Putin's criticised what he calls mad and thoughtless sanctions against his nation imposed following the invasion of Ukraine. He used his address at an economic conference in St. Petersburg to implore Russian businesses to keep working in the country. In the US, President Joe Biden says a recession is not inevitable, even in the wake of stark warnings from economists, as Gabrielle Fahmy reports from New York.
Speaking to the Associated Press from his Oval Office, U.S. President Joe Biden said the American people are, quote, really, really down after 2 years of pandemic, a volatile economy, and now surging gas prices. But he tried to offer a glimmer of hope, saying the U.S. is in a stronger position than any nation in the world to overcome inflation. His comments come after the central bank raised interest rates by another 75 basis points this week. The Feds are expected to continue to hike rates in the coming months.
And Britain's feeling sky high after it was announced the UK could host the Eurovision Song Contest in 2023. Sam Ryder came second in this year's edition with his song Spaceman, the UK's best result since 1998, losing out only to Ukraine. Usually the winner hosts next year's competition, but with the conflict raging on in the war-torn state, the European Broadcasting Union has instead begun discussions with the British Broadcasting Corporation. Downing Street's welcomed the possibility of holding the event in Britain. However, Ukraine's culture minister is demanding they still get to host. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSA.
Got Telegram? You can follow our channel there and discuss show prep with other listeners at telegram.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live. The number is 603-283-6160. 603-283-6160 here on Free Talk Live. It's Mark with you.
Nobody.
And Chris.
And that's right. It's been a great Friday night, guys. I really have enjoyed this with all the calls.
Busy. You wore me out.
Nice being on the show. Ian just gave up the chair. He's like, hey, you want to do Friday night? No problem. He's I think he's watching a movie with Bonnie and, he's listening to the show too. He doesn't ever not listen to the show, but he can kind of compartmentalize. It's been 20 years. And so, he has the ability to do that sort of thing. Anyway, it's been really great. Thanks, guys. It's been a nice show.
No problem.
But there's plenty more to it. Let's go to Sarah calling in from New Mexico. Your favorite caller, isn't it, Rich?
Oh, yeah.
Sarah, you're on Free Talk Live.
Oh, yes. You know what? I'm so happy that Ian's taking a day off, too, on Fridays. Because, you know what? You guys are a lot more nicer to me.
Oh, we're not going to let you escape the criticisms.
Oh.
I've
actually got a question for you.
I like your call, Sarah. Go ahead.
Yeah, what's the call?
I said I like your calls.
Okay, I'm so excited. Did you know Revlon, the makeup company, is put out of business?
Oh, my. Why?
Well, you know what? They went broke because they spend millions of dollars on what? Commercials. And I know that my company, took away some of their business. Our word-of-mouth advertisement, more competition for them.
So, hold on. Is Revlon out of business?
Yes, that's what I told you. Yeah, it's on the news. I mean, they went out of business because they got too much competition.
So, was there a bankruptcy or? And usually, Sarah. Here's the thing, Sarah. Usually, companies don't go out of business. Like they don't just go out of business. Like something happens. There's some sort of bankruptcy, and often they come out of bankruptcy. So I'm a little skeptical, but
it says here Revlon borrows $375 million in bankruptcy to shore up supply chain. So it looks like Revlon is in big trouble.
Well, which chapter of bankruptcy? And is it a reorganization?
It's got to be 11, right?
Or is it a liquidation?
I can't remember. I forget on these. Sorry.
God, I just took a business law class a couple years ago.
So there's the reorganization versus sort of out of business, but whatever the case may be. That's looks like Sarah's correct. Please go on, Sarah.
Well, what I want to say is that look, tens of thousands of customers with my network company. I'm not supposed to. Well, they part of our line is our makeup products. And so I don't really care about Revlon products. They never live up to the commercial. It's like a false commercial. They do up the commercial, and their foundations and their makeup don't live up to the promised commercial. So I think
if you don't like things that don't live up to their hype, you're going to hate socialism.
Let me ask you this, Sarah. It sounds like you got a job here. It sounds like you've embraced capitalism. Is that an accurate description of what's going on?
Well, I mean, it's. I guess you could say that it's a form of capitalism. Yeah.
You're working for a company now, right?
Well, I'm not really signed up. I'm a customer, and Richard is the one that's on the account. He could actually sign you guys up if you're interested.
All right. So let me rephrase this. You are participating in some sort of Ponzi scheme then.
What do you mean Ponzi scheme? You mean
I don't
network
know.
marketing?
Ponzi scheme?
Or some sort of network marketing scam?
Yeah,
or
there's lots of.
That's what it sounds like to me.
Well, I think
A
makeup is good
scheme
for.
is technically
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right.
swindle where early
bad choice of words.
investors are paid off with money derived from later investors, but nothing is actually invested. The best example of that is Social Security.
So Avon made it through network marketing, and I think it's a good model for makeup. And here's the reason why. Because somebody who has a skill set of a makeup application can have a little business selling makeup, and then can show the ladies, their friends, presumably it's ladies, their friends, how to apply the makeup, and they can then use their skill set as a value add to make the pricing model work.
I think it wouldn't be a scam if you are a very social person with a lot of friends. I think the reality is most people, and this is why I think it's somewhat of a scam, kind of bordering on kind of a Ponzi type thing, is because usually they try to you have to invest something, right? But they try to tell you that you just have to sell it to all your friends or whatever. But at the end of the day, how many friends do most people have? And then how many of them are going to want the product that they're trying to sell?
You need something that's consumable, and makeup certainly is. Hopefully, they're putting it on every day. That's the pitch anyway.
Yep.
I can't say I know that much about makeup generally.
I don't either.
I'm not obviously not my forte, but
I'll tell you what, women, we love makeup. I mean, it's like a multi-billion-dollar, but we just can't get enough of it. And the thing is that I think Mary Kay, they're still in business. I found a Mary Kay card. So a lot of these companies do stay in business, but with
it's not about the company. It's about you being able to generate a profit from your participation in that marketing scheme or scam or however you want to phrase it.
I think you hit on exactly the right problem, because mathematically, the organization of network marketing makes a lot of sense. The problem is that I think it's such a I think as a means of organization, it's so effective that people end up using it for scams. But I think real things could be done with the philosophy and mathematics behind it.
I don't think I would. I think it is in some sense the way it's sold. Most of these marketing schemes, I don't necessarily. I'm not saying they should be illegal, but what I am saying is I think most people who participate in these types of things are getting into something that will never make them any money. And
I think that may be true. So it takes a great deal of sales drive to make money doing these sorts of things. But I feel like makeup is one of those industries where it could be true. And what concerns me is companies like Mary Kay and companies like Avon have kind of left their distributors behind. Tupperware is another one of them. These ladies, in many cases, busted their humps for decades, bringing these brands to the marketplace. And then what's the brand do? Goes sits in CVS so that it can get the the low end market and sell to everybody. And when all of its distributors did all this work to it's called network marketing to network market it. And
it's not your business; it's somebody else's business.
I feel like there should be a commitment from the manufacturer to its network marketers,
like a contract.
This is the way we're going to do business. We're going to stick with you. You stick with us, and yeah, baby, we're bringing you that pink Cadillac.
Actually, the thing that would probably be most effective marketed by network marketing, and it actually and what you're saying would be baked into the pie. Imagine a crypto that paid
we gotta link everything to crypto, don't we?
Premium based on to people, users of the crypto, who create more users of the crypto based on, for example, maybe 0.1% of the spending of each person you bring in.
I think it's a great idea. I'm for it, and I kind of tried to do something just like that with the setup that we had originally for crypto accepting businesses here in New Hampshire, where it would be just the smallest of fees that the person who got the store originally would get. But basically, it would drive you to get out there and bring store after store after store in. And as people are spending crypto, you'd really be able to line it up.
You really don't need a fee because people spend 10% to get it off the exchange. All you need to do is get it at spot and you're golden.
Crypto's always got a chicken and egg problem, I think. So, yeah, it's kind of hard to get over.
I've bought both chickens and eggs with it.
603-282
Probably have two.
6160 here on Free Talk Live.
Free Talk Live.
There's going to be no food by February.
Oh, that seems a little extreme. I find that hard to believe.
Well, watch it happen. Hope you find Christ.
Oh, good luck, buddy. Thanks.
What really turned me away from religion was the fact that most of them are so intolerant and nasty.
What do you mean?
Your life will suck unless you find Jesus. Well, I had Jesus a long time ago, and he didn't really do anything for me, so I got away from that.
Right, and I can tell you that if you want to have that attitude with people, like,
Good
well,
luck
you better find Christ, or you're going to burn in hell.
Yeah.
Then
Good luck converting people.
Yeah, I really want to hang out with people like you, there, Keith. I really want to hang out with people like you. So I'm sorry to those good Christians out there listening that aren't like Keith. But it's the loudmouths like Keith that do real damage to your religion and how people feel about it.
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern, live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com. Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
Hey, you are going to love the movie Victimless Crime Spree. It's hilarious, heartwarming, and carries a ton of inspiring freedom messages. Feeling down about the lack of liberty in your life? You need to put on this film with some friends and have a good laugh. It's a true story about me and my friends in New Hampshire living free, singing, dancing, and getting arrested. Of course, it's all on video, and the bad guys, the cops, judges, bailiffs, and sheriffs, they all play their part like it's out of a movie or something. You would think we scripted the whole thing, but it's real life. Go ahead and have a watch, and if it's been a while, have another look. I guarantee you'll notice things now that you didn't notice before. And the best part is that you're going to walk away feeling a renewed sense of your own power. You are the master of your destiny, and you will be free in your lifetime. Victimless Crime Spree.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com. The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com.
Live, guys. 603-283-6160. Yeah, that's it, in fact. 603-283-6160. You can call in and, we'll try to get you on in the final segment here. It's Mark with you.
And Chris.
Nobody did. Sorry about that. I may not have got actually your mic turned on when you said it.
You didn't.
So,
well, I said nobody.
He did.
You said it, but the mic has to be unmuted for you to actually be on the radio.
Chris, before we get into your
If
story,
nobody says nobody and nobody's around to hear, did he really make a sound?
Yeah. Before we get to Chris's story here about Jeff Bezos playing his violin while Rome burns, I want to tell you about Truth Smacks. So Truth Smacks are a trail mix, and we've got a friend. Her name's Suzanne. She's a former English teacher and longtime truth seeker. She recently started her own trail mix brand, making it, bagging it, sealing it herself in a commercial kitchen down in Naples, Florida. She's going to be up here at the Porcupine Freedom Festival, and these bags are unusual in a few different ways. Some have truth quotes, freedom quotes, a variety of things like that. So the idea is that people, while enjoying this delicious trail mix, and it is delicious trail mix,
It really is.
would in fact read these quotes, be interested by these ideas, and perhaps somewhat converted at some point, and makes fertile ground for you. I think the most interesting thing about the trail mix personally, though, is the peppermint infused variety. They have regular and peppermint infused. They have truth quotes and freedom quotes. They have big bags. They have little bags. When you start mixing these up, there's a lot of different ways you can get your Truth Smacks, but it's up to you. Now, what I love about it is they're all raw, unadulterated ingredients, no artificial crap, only food as nature intended. It's truthsmacks.com, spreading truth one delicious morsel at a time, truthsmacks.com. Go and enjoy it as I have. It really is great. Ian and I were just talking about it off the air last night, and
You guys are always talking about it off the air.
We love Truth Smacks. Have you had some?
I have actually, yeah.
Okay, because I wanted to make sure. I did bring some with me too.
Yeah, I had a chance to try them. I like the regular flavor.
I'm a starving activist. If it's free, I'm going to eat it.
Yeah. I think you ate a whole bag almost, didn't you, the one time?
I really did. I felt kind of bad.
Did you try the peppermint one?
I did.
Yeah. Do you like it better than regular? What's your thoughts?
I prefer the regular. Yep. For me, the peppermint is gilding the lily. But
well, it's quite the compliment. That's a Shakespearean term. Please explain it, because not everybody knows.
Is it Shakespearean? Well, to gild something is to put traces of gold on the edge of it, like furniture. So gilding a lily is adding a refinement to something that is already beautiful. Sufficiently beautiful.
Yeah, beautiful and perfect. And, so I think that in many ways indicates that something is unnecessarily... Shakespeare came up with the term, gild the lily. I think that...
was that
your
Shakespeare?
Shakespearean knowledge is well above that of the average homeless person. Rich, I really appreciate it.
Yeah, well, I
don't believe he's homeless, though.
Not today.
Okay.
Well, not today, but you never know about tomorrow. Because,
that's true.
I don't know. I really need to start thinking about things other than activism, but I keep hoping somebody's going to value the activism and keep me.
The Cell 401 is ready to go, right?
It's getting very close. It's just not clear that I'm going to make money off it when it does. A lot of people will benefit from it. I just don't know if I'll be one of them.
We'll make sure you make some money. I don't know how much.
That's good. I mean, so long as I can, eat some pizza and have a place to code, I'm happy.
It's probably a good idea to balance the self-sufficiency with the activism.
What's up with Bezos here complaining about workers?
Leaked Amazon memo warns the company is running out of people to hire. This is from Vox. Yeah, you heard that right.
How does that even happen? All right, go ahead.
There's 7 billion people on Earth. How many work for Amazon?
It's pretty easy. So they're talking about the United States, effectively. And
because you have to be in the United States to be able to get a driver's license and then drive around, and therefore, so it makes it, to be an Amazon driver, you basically have to be a U.S. citizen.
Yeah. It's not really that hard to run out of people. Look, when you've got more demand for a product than people to supply it, you run out of people unless you can import people from other parts of the world where there's not enough jobs. And unfortunately, because of border walls and, the U.S. government and, government agents, thugs shooting people when they try to cross the border, you end up with a situation where there's just not enough labor to fill all the demand for employees. So
well, in my experience,
it's pretty simple.
when I've been willing to pay a sufficient price for a thing, I've always been able to find it.
So this is an economic plateau problem in that you could raise the price. Amazon could raise its prices, but it will reduce the demand. So yes, that is one solution, is everybody's going to get paid more. However, you're also going to be paying more for products and services. So you're actually not going to do as well financially, even though you're getting paid more. The way to stop the economic plateau problem is to actually allow immigration. Now, when you have immigrants, the wages will be suppressed to some degree, but it also usually ends up creating higher paying jobs for the people who have skills. And
the
usually,
Washington think tank Cato Institute agrees with you. They say that there would be a one-time doubling of the world's GDP. Most of that would benefit the United States, mind you, and certainly Western Europe, maybe Great Britain, but probably by and large the United States, if you sort of just allowed free migration of people.
Right. I mean, think about it this way. If there are immigrants, right? Let's say we open the borders and there's immigrants. Well, somebody now has to manage those immigrants who get those new jobs that you once held. And who are they going to hire? They're going to hire the people with experience and the skills that have already been doing those jobs to get in. They're going to start training them. They're going to get management. They'll become management. And then, yes, there will be, it may affect the overall wages, but it's only, even if it negatively affects overall wages, it's not going to be negative to the people who are getting those lower wages because they're still higher than what they would have gotten in that, third world country that they're probably migrating from.
This was absolutely true for me.
The one group of people who doesn't benefit from it, or doesn't benefit from it as obviously, is people who are already on the bottom rung and don't really have the skills to be management. So there is some risk to some people. Even they would see some benefit,
I think the
however,
counter-argument,
because lower expenses lead and more productivity leads to more to lower prices.
Sure. So I think we need to back up a moment. So unfortunately, we don't live in a truly free market, right? Maybe that would be true in a
if we did, there wouldn't be poverty.
Well, yeah, probably. But hey, back up a second. So the problem with that logic is that most of these people that we're talking about, they're people that are already, without employment, right? They're on Social Security, they're on welfare programs. Sarah's a good example. She's a regular caller to the show.
Sarah,
it wouldn't affect
Sarah
them.
is not a low-paid worker. She's not a worker at all.
Right, and that's the point. I mean, these are the people that you're talking about. You're talking about people who don't have jobs mostly, as it is.
I'm talking about the people who would actually be competing with people are cleaning things now.
I thought what you were saying. Okay, yeah,
and they're
presumably
who would have to deal with more competition.
There's certainly I don't necessarily think that's the case because there's actually more jobs being created. So you still have the same jobs you had before, but this is new demand new positions that didn't exist before. So I think that's kind of a flawed argument effectively. And
there would also be a balancing effect from lower prices.
Guys, I have a call here. I'm really sorry. Let's just
bring
go
her
ahead
on.
and take it. I don't know who it is. I have no idea. Maybe I've already taken this call. Who is it? Free Talk Live.
It's Jack from Ocean Shores.
Hey, Jack. You got moments. Go ahead.
All right, David, was he calling saying that you guys harass Sarah in order to get ratings?
Something like that. Yeah.
She's calling us. Remember?
Well, we can't be harassing her too badly. She can't be deterred from calling back in.
Yeah, she doesn't listen, but she is fun to listen to.
I think she's a pretty good caller, personally. She always calls in with
Yeah.
something different every night. You know, she keeps it.
She's not the worst caller. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't agree with her, but
The thing that bothers
Yeah.
me about her is
You're
just
not
okay.
on her,
she
but
doesn't
you
care
like
how
her.
many people get hurt if she
Yeah.
gets what she wants.
I don't think she understands that people are getting hurt.
Thanks for the call. Appreciate it. Well, I'm trying to give the number here. Check us out at freetalklive.com.
A little late for that.
We've got our new website. If you go to ftl.fm, you can see what we're rolling out there, too.
New website.
Indeed. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
When Monster Hunter International discovers one of Isaac Newton's wardstones being auctioned off, they decide to steal it and use it to destroy the Chaos God once and for all. But a mysterious thief upends their plan, and it soon becomes a race against time as something much older and infinitely more evil awakens in the jungles of South America. Monster Hunter Bloodlines by New York Times bestselling author Larry Correia and Baen Books. Visit monsterhunternation.com for more.
My name is Jacob Hornberger. I'm president of the Future of Freedom Foundation, which Congressman Ron Paul awarded for having an outstanding freedom website. Write us at fff@fff.org, and we'll send you a free 3-month subscription to our monthly journal of libertarian essays and our booklet, Economic Liberty in the Constitution, which George Mason University economics professor Walter Williams praised in a recent column. That's fff@fff.org.
Is oral health important to you? If you don't like your own teeth, fresh breath, or kissing people, then by all means,